Broadcasting from their world headquarters in Texas, it's the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show, the show that discusses arcade repair, restoration, news, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Jonathan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show for January 2024, episode 83. Wow. Tim, 2024.
Wow.
Anyway, my name is Jonathan Leung, the producer, director, and editor of the Arcade Repair Tips video series. And joining me today, as always, is Mr. Arcade Repair Tips himself, Tim Peterson. Tim, how are you?
I'm a little hoarse. I'll just say that up front. You know, I've been battling some allergies, but went to Mavericks games, doing a lot of yelling, and I have kind of lost my voice the last few days. I don't know if it's, I don't think it's laryngitis or anything. I'm not running fever or nothing, but a little bit of cough and some hoarseness, so I will apologize up front if it sounds a little funny, but we'll get through it tonight. I'm still glad to be here, glad that you're here tonight, and hope that we have a good show.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tim, we already have quite a few people in the live chat wishing us a Happy New Year. We've got Jumping General says Happy New Year, everyone. The Real Hammer Billy Lee says Happy New Year. Encore MPW says Happy New Year. Peter Series says Happy New Year. And Big D Retro is here and says Happy New Year. And we would wish you a Happy New Year as well. Hopefully you had a great Christmas. Tim, we didn't do a show that long ago.
Yeah,
because, I was about to say, it's been about 3 weeks because we took we took the second Thursday of the month for the last 3 months. This is the first time we've had a show on the first Thursday of the month in like I say, in 3 months, basically.
Getting back on track.
Exactly. New year, trying to get back to our normal schedule. So first Thursday of the month is always what we shoot for, and that is what we are at this evening, which is good. So hopefully you guys had a good New Year like we talked about. Tim, you have a good New Year, good Christmas?
Yeah, it was a good time. I had a lot of time, had some extra time off, and you know, both kids were home for Christmas, so that was good. You know, it was just a kind of a chill time. Watched a lot of football and some good Christmas shows, movies, stuff like that. Went to see a movie we'll talk about later, and but it was just good. And our New Year's Eve was really quiet.
That's good.
We went to bed, I think, about 8:30 or 9.
Well, you got to bed earlier than I did. We stayed up quite a bit, but
I rang in the New Year asleep.
Oh, we shut off fireworks. We had a good time.
Oh, yeah. My neighbors did too.
Were you able to get some sleep?
No, it was fine. Yeah, I guess I started a new show or something. It was just, we watched about 4 or 5 episodes. By the time it got to 8:30 or 9, everybody's like, oh, we're tired.
There you go. Well, hopefully you guys had a great New Year, and it's good to have y'all back with us this evening. So tonight we'll be answering your arcade repair questions like we always do, but we do want to remind you that if you want to interact with us during the show, you can leave messages in the live chat like so many already have. Paul Drace here says Happy New Year. Let's see, we have Pitchmeister, I guess is how you say that. Happy birthday. Love you guys. Thank you. So we love you guys no matter where you are, and we're glad that you're watching it this evening. So, Tim, really, with this new year kind of coming up, 2024, I feel like is going to be big. I don't know if we got a lot of stuff coming up necessarily, but I think we're going to have a good time. We did kind of jumpstart Christmas last year by giving away a lot of stuff in that final live show.
Yeah.
So we had several people who emailed us about the contest, and here's the thing, Tim, everybody that emailed us got something.
Oh, wow.
So we literally sent a prize to everybody who emailed. Now, you had to follow the rules. So if you did not send your mailing address in there, or you did not say that Die Hard is or is not a Christmas movie, then you did not get something sent to you. But as long as you left your mailing address and put whether or not you thought Die Hard was or was not a Christmas movie, we did send you something, and everybody got something different. So I sent all those out either right before Christmas or right after. So if you're in the live chat and you want to talk about what you got, we'd love for you to do that. You guys can kind of talk about it. Everything was a little bit video game / arcade related, so because that's what we give away here. So no prizes tonight because I think I gave them all away last month. So that's what I was really going to say, Tim.
We'll restock.
That's right. We'll restock. And we'll try again another time. But we are glad you're here with us, and we hope that you stay tuned for even more prizes in the future, even if we're not giving away any tonight. Right, Tim?
Right.
Okay, guys, so we have a lot of questions. Again, if you have any questions for us, you can always leave those in the live chat as we go. If you're watching this after the fact, maybe you're not watching live with us tonight, you can leave questions in the comment section below, and we'll try to get to those on the next episode. And, of course, you can always email us at questions@arcaderepairtips.com. And, Tim, I'm reiterating some stuff tonight because I do feel like we got as we usually do during Christmas, we get a lot of new people watching the show. And so this may be your first time watching. In fact, some of these people who answered or who asked questions tonight that we'll be answering, I feel like we're maybe first-time writers, you know,
okay.
First people who wrote in for the first time. So if that's you, thanks for doing that. And we will be getting to your question here shortly. So, Tim, I think we're all caught up right now. Rob says Happy New Year. Lots of Happy New Years, and Happy New Year's to you guys, too. Hopefully, it was a safe and pleasant one.
Have you had to write 2024 yet?
Well, I don't do many checks.
It's like we don't write checks anymore.
Right, exactly. So, the only thing, I had to do 2024 for the artwork for the episode.
Okay.
Obviously. So, we did make it on there. Let's show that again just to be sure.
It always takes me a couple months to... I'll still be
There we go.
writing 23 or something, you know?
Exactly, yeah. So it takes a little bit. So I was able to get 2024 on there, so I did that right.
Okay.
I'm good about that. Tim, I'm actually in the process of switching checking accounts from one bank to another. My current bank made me mad. We're going to get off topic here right at the beginning. My current bank started charging me like an extra $10 per month if I didn't keep a balance of at least $1,500 all the time.
Wow.
In my checking account.
In your checking account. Wow, who does that?
Exactly.
I mean...
Because if I have that much, guess where it's going?
It's going to savings, right?
Exactly. Or it's going to investments or something
Sure.
else. So I decided to quit that bank, and so I'm in the process of getting a new checkbook and I have a new checking account. I just switched over a whole bunch of stuff. This is a headache, though.
It is.
Oh.
It's a big headache, especially if you have stuff that automatically comes out.
Exactly.
You have to cover all your bases, keep a little in there for a while.
And then finally I'm going to close it because,
Yeah.
it's just not cool. But anyway, totally off subject. Let us get to some arcade questions, Tim. That's why people watch, right? That's why you guys are here. So let's go ahead and get to some. And the first one here we have, Tim, is from German. Or German. I guess it depends on how you emphasize the syllable. But here we go. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. German says, "Hey guys, I managed to find a Konami silent scope recently, but the CRT monitor is having some problems. The game is loading, the start button is blinking, and I am able to start the game and hear the sound of the game, including the shooting when I press the trigger. However, I can't see any image. I think the CRT is out of sync." Now, Tim, you can see here, he sent us this picture, and it does look like the CRT is out of sync. Or maybe not out of sync. I don't know.
That's exactly what it looks like.
But based on what German has said and the picture he sent, what do you think is going on here with his silent scope? And I should say that German's question is the inspiration for tonight's episode title, Blind But Not a Silent Scope. So there we go. And that's what we have here. So Tim, with the picture and the things that German said in mind, what can we do in order to help him get his silent scope back up and running?
Well, it's one of the things that we talked about all the time. He did exactly what we would ask. We say, or can you coin it up? Does it make sounds? Do you hear things? So anytime that is going on, you know that the problem has to be somewhere in the monitor. Now, it does look a little out of sync, but you're right. Without really, you can't just look at a still picture.
Sure.
You almost have to watch it for a minute. So maybe it's just a bad connection. You need to check his solder joints and all that stuff. But a lot of times you can just adjust it some, and he can watch our video on adjusting an arcade monitor and try to get that back into sync. Now, it could also be a wiring issue that's come loose and causing it not, or the sync was never hooked up to begin with. One thing that he doesn't tell us, and I think this would help when you write a question, he doesn't say if this is an ongoing problem or if it just happened one day. Because sometimes if you bought it and it's never worked, then we might consider that, and he's tried to adjust it, then it could be a wire or a solder joint or something. But if it just happened overnight, that's also a lot of times just can be adjusted out. So those would be a couple things that we would look into. Now, of course, you could have a PCB issue, but it's probably not very common. He's already determined that the game is playing. It's just blind. Mm-hmm. You can hear it.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and look at what I wrote up here. Now, Tim, I did have a suggestion here, something that you may not be familiar with on silent scope that we want to mention as well.
Okay.
It's possible that it could be a sync issue, like Tim mentioned. Make sure that your sync wire that runs from the game board to the monitor is making a good connection. Check the wire itself along with the input pins on the monitor chassis. Look for cold, cracked, broken solder joints as well. Now, Silent Scope does have a VGA output on it, too. Okay, so you might try hooking a computer monitor to the VGA port to see if you get a picture. With that said, not all computer monitors will support that output resolution because I think it only puts out 15 and 25 kilohertz on that. Typically, VGA would be 31 kilohertz. And so, if you have a multi-sync style monitor that will accept those, then it would work. Otherwise, it may give you a out of range error or something like that on the monitor. So you may get an out of range. But if you get out of range, that means at least there's something being put out. So, I mean, you could of course try that just to see if it works. And the point, of course, is to determine whether we have a monitor or a PCB issue. So if we hook up that computer monitor and we get a picture, then we know the problem's probably in the monitor at that point. If you get the same scrambly screen, then it could be that you do have a board issue or a video issue of some sort with your game board. So, but I think where we're starting here is really with those sync wires. and making sure that they're connected properly, and then seeing if we can find a VGA monitor that we can hook up to that VGA output to see what we get and see if we can determine whether or not we're having a board or a monitor issue. Tim, do you have anything else here to add for German before we move on?
No, that's a great point, and it's always nice. I love the newer style games. Now, looking at the picture, it almost looks like it could be a flat screen, which looks like a newer style monitor, so hopefully you could just hook up that VGA and see how it works after that, or maybe it is hooked up. A couple questions that we would still ask, but by all means, I think that gives them some good places to start, but he can come back and ask more questions if need be.
And we should also say that Silent Scope is a gun game, but it uses a potentiometer-based gun.
Right.
And so you can put an LCD in there. You don't have to worry about an optical sensor like you would with a game like Area 51 or Lethal Enforcers. So that is something that is beneficial. If you just wanted to go to an LCD monitor in there, you could. There's nothing that would stop you from doing that. So hopefully that answers your question, German, and good luck getting that Silent Scope up and running. Please let us know if you need additional help. Tim, I think he said he was from Singapore.
Oh, nice.
So if I remember correctly, I'll have to double check that. That may not be correct. But
it'll be pretty late there right now.
Yeah, exactly. So if you need additional help, please let us know. You can write us back, and we'll try to help you out further. So. Okay, Tim, let's go ahead and check over with the live chat real quick. We've got YouTube Punk is here, says howdy, and he says, what's a checkbook? And that's exactly right. I mean, how often do you write checks? There's about, I write checks for donations typically. So if I make donations to organizations, a lot of times I will do a check. Sometimes I'll donate online for those, just depending. But it really depends. I was about to say, checkbook-wise, though, I mean, there's not a lot of times I use a checkbook anymore. I think everything's pretty much gone.
Twice a month, maybe.
Yeah.
Get that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, our yard guys still want a check. I don't think they take any kind of digital payment yet. The guys who do landscaping, I was about to say.
That's who I do mine.
And then I was trying to think, there's a couple other things where checkbooks are still around. But for the most part, I think they phased out for sure. Let's see. Nate says, hi guys, Happy New Year's. Question, what is the best way to get rid of mold in a cabinet or at least treat it? So, man, there's not a lot of good ways to get rid of mold. I mean, the bleach is like the best killer of it.
Yeah, you got to use something bleach-based.
Exactly. It's got to be bleach-based in order to get rid of it. But the problem with bleach-based stuff is it's pretty harsh and can't. If it's painted, obviously it could damage the paint. That's pretty common. And so, I mean, when it comes to mold, bleach is the only thing that I've found that'll kill it.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're going to go that route, though, you probably want to bleach it and then sand and repaint.
Exactly.
Something to that effect. So, bleach everything, and then you'll probably want to redo that cabinet altogether. Because, and I would suggest doing a primer on it. Mm-hmm. And the primer to seal, basically, anything that's left over from the mold after you bleach it real good, and then paint it whatever you want. And then if you want to do artwork, do the artwork after that. So, because, yeah, I mean, that's the only good thing I've found to kill mold. Is there anything else? Even
if it's inside the game and not necessarily outside, it's okay to go ahead and clean it good with bleach and paint it.
Exactly. Primer the inside or whatever, or paint the inside.
It'll definitely keep it from spreading or for causing you some kind of health issues or something down the road.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's pretty much all you can do. You don't really have a lot of options, unfortunately. And if the cabinet is already starting to crumble a little bit, you need to be really careful, of course, because it may just be better to throw it away at that point. If the cabinet's still in good shape, though, bleach, paint, and you should be good. So
yeah, most products that are used to clean like showers or something, you don't have to use straight bleach as long as it's something that has some bleach content in it.
He says it's a nice looking cabinet on the outside, not so much on the inside. She's smelly.
Yeah.
So if it's smelly, like I said, bleach, paint.
I think I owned that cabinet before.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've had some like that, right?
A few.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's see. Nate says, I wonder if there's a list of X and Y gun games. I love CRTs, but having a gun game that doesn't need a CRT is sometimes nice for operators. We can name a few for you. Operation Wolf obviously falls into that category. Revolution X, Tim. What else do we got
Terminator.
there? Terminator 2 would definitely fall into that category. What else? There's a handful of them.
Let's Go Jungle.
Let's Go Jungle, yeah, exactly. Which, like Jurassic Park, if you're looking at newer games, like those Raw Thrills games, those use potentiometer base. So I mean, it just anything that has a gun that's physically mounted that can't move from its base. Pretty good shot. Pretty good indicator that it's probably potentiometer base. If it's something where it's a gun where you can wave it around, it's not attached to the cabinet except by maybe a cord or a wire, then that's probably an optical gun. So it just depends. Like I said.
That's probably a good way to determine.
Yeah. So anything that's physically mounted, if a gun is physically mounted to the cabinet in some way to where you can't remove it from the cabinet, you can't pick it up, then more than likely it uses potentiometers for that. So let's see. YouTube Punk says, I might write a couple of checks a year.
Okay.
So there you go. Like I said, probably 2 checks a month for us. So what's that, 24 year? I mean, it's not many, right?
Yeah. A box of 200 will last us.
Yeah, YouTube Punk says kilts.
Yeah, kilts is great.
So yeah, you can use that. Let's see. Rob says, I have a red tin. It periodically freezes and resets. I have replaced the batteries on the board and the power supply is putting out the correct voltage. Sometimes it's 10 to 15 minutes and sometimes it's an hour. So on resetting issues, I mean, typically it would be power supply, but with that said, it can be a board issue as well. And we've seen this to where loose connections can cause that as well. So make sure that all your connections to the board are really well connected. You may need to clean the edge if it's a Nintendo. If the red tin has an edge connector instead of the actual individual connectors, you may need to clean that edge connector real good and make sure that those pins are in really good shape, because it doesn't take much. If one of those voltage pins is starting to break loose a little bit, it doesn't take much for it to reset the game, if that makes sense, right,
yeah.
Tim?
Or they oxidize and stuff over time too, so a good chance to clean them and your edge of your board.
Right now, but it is possible too that you're just that you're having just a problem somewhere with the board, and like if it's resetting after so much time, I mean, it could be a heating issue.
Check your power supply voltage right after it resets.
That's a good idea.
And see if it dropped down for any reason at some point under a load. It may do that.
And check it on the board at a chip.
Yeah.
And that'll tell you for sure that those chips are getting the right voltage. You may need to turn it up a little bit depending on how much voltage you're getting at the board. So if you measure it at the board on a chip, typically that gives you the best reading that you can get for the board. And so that may be the place to do it. And like Tim mentioned, try checking it right after the reset happens to see if you've had a voltage drop of any kind. But also make sure that all your connections are good and make sure that you're not having like lifted pins or oxidized connectors or things like that. Or lifted pins, oxidized pins, lifted connectors, stuff like that. I mean, all that kind of stuff can cause issues. So, just double check all that stuff and see what's going on. Because a lot of times, resets can be caused by power issues, shorts, obviously, and it can be board. So, like the processor could be having issues. It could be a RAM chip that just has it's not holding something, so it's junk. And so when the CPU goes to access the address, it just crashes. It could be something like that, but a lot of times if that's the case, it won't necessarily reboot. It would probably just die. So I mean, like I said, check the voltage at the board, especially after the reset. Let us know what you find there, and then check your connections, all of them, especially on the edge connectors. If you have that going on, make sure all that is connected properly. So let's see, YouTube Punk, do you have a FTIR device? Maybe some component is getting too off. Yeah, if you have something that can detect heat on your board, that would highly be recommended. Me and Tim have talked about this before. If you take an infrared camera and you hover it over a board and you see hot areas, that could be indicators that there's problems in that area of the board. So if you have one of those, it's not a bad idea to use that either. Let's see. Okay. And he says, I'll give it a shot. I'll clean the edge connector and recheck voltages. And again, check the voltages right after the reset and see what it is at that point on the board if possible. And like I said, you may even need to turn it up just a hair just to make sure. But again, could be a board issue, could be memory, could be CPU, could be a lot of things. So let's start with the easy stuff first and then start suspecting the board. We've kind of rolled out everything else, right, Tim?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Nintendos are a little bit trickier than most games.
Yeah. So Danny, hey guys, Happy New Year. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Glad to be here tonight. It's been a while. Glad to have you here, Danny. Mm-hmm. Glad to have everybody here tonight. So glad that we're on the first Thursday night of the month. Did I mention that? First Thursday night of the month. It feels like it's been forever. So there you go. Knights of the Old. Question. After I moved, sound on my Stargate doesn't work. I took a look at the connection, seemed fine. What to check next? So so the sound stopped working, it sounds like, when you moved it. Is that correct? So the sound on Stargate doesn't work. We assume that it was working before you moved it. So a lot of times that is a connection issue of some sort. And so there is a way to test that soundboard on the Williams games, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, but there's a way to do the sound check. Yeah, there is a connector that runs from the soundboard to the main board, and so obviously you need to make sure that that's okay. And anytime you move, man, those loose pins, connectors, and all sorts of stuff can wreak havoc on stuff. So, I mean, checking, especially between the soundboard and the main board, is going to be key.
Yeah, where it connects to your speaker also. Just
right,
make
exactly.
sure it didn't just come barely loose or wiggle off or something like that.
Yeah, exactly, because that can happen as well. Check the voltage on the soundboard. Make sure that you're getting voltage there because, I mean, it's very possible that, again, we've lost the connection for some reason. And so, make sure that everything is lit up properly. Of course, Stargate should give you error codes, right? I always forget. We have a nice post on our website that is about troubleshooting Williams games with King Graham. If you remember him, and he gave us like a little cheat sheet on what to check for things. So I highly recommend you check out all of the posts on our website that have to do with Williams games and King Graham, because, like I said, he gave us this worksheet of stuff one time to check, which is very helpful, and shows like it's got the schematics in it for Williams games and all that kind of stuff. Very helpful. So make sure you check that out. Tim, I miss Ken a lot. Ken was such a great guy and taught us so much about working on Williams games. Of course, Ken worked for Williams back in the day, so knew a lot about him, and we've tried to capture some of the resources he shared with us on the website. So make sure you check our the Williams programmer post on our website with Ken Graham. One of those does have a document that'll help you with Williams games troubleshooting, so we would recommend that. So, let's see. JH, how do I fix a convergence on a Donkey Kong Jr. cocktail? Thank you. So, most games do have like convergence or purity rings on the back. Most monitors do that you can adjust, which we've talked about that. If you don't have that, because some monitors don't, you may have to physically move the yoke or shim the yoke in order to get the convergence to work. And Tim, we have a document on our website by Ingvar Carlson about setting up a CRT monitor that goes into great depth on how to do the yoke adjustments on monitors. And so it may be either a matter of taking the shims out or putting more shims in order to get the yoke positioned properly to where it displays on the tube properly. Okay, so it's a trial and error process, and it's not fun. But a lot of times, what will happen in moving a game is that the yoke will shift. And so a lot of times it doesn't shift a whole lot, but it'll shift a little bit. When that happens, you will lose convergence a little bit. And so sometimes you can adjust it by just doing the convergence or the purity ring. Sometimes that's enough. But sometimes you have to actually physically move the yoke in order to get it to converge properly. And so we would recommend checking out the convergence, adjusting the convergence rings post and video that we have. But if you don't have convergence rings or purity rings and you're still not getting it converged the way that you want it to, check out that post by Ingvar Carlson on setting up a CRT, that whole guide that he has. And he has a whole section in there on dealing with the yoke. And so that's what you want to look at. Have at it. And like I said, it can be a trial and error process a lot. It may take some time, but you can get it. It is possible. But we've had to physically adjust yokes before. Like I said, you may have to shim. You may have to take out some of the shims. If there's shims there, you may have to put some in, just depending on how you can get it converged with the tube. So, is that good?
I think so.
Cool. Okay, well, let us move on to our next post here, or next question, I should say, from Nat, Tim. So here we go. Hello, I was hoping you'd be able to take a quick look at a monitor issue I've been having with my Contra cabinet. A minute or two after powering on, the screen slowly fades out to blue and then is able to play blind. Have you come across this? Any idea as to what is going on would be much appreciated. Board, monitor, chassis, etc. are all original. Thanks a lot. Nat from Shadyside, Maryland. Right, Maryland? Mm-hmm. MD, I'm pretty sure. So,
unless he's a doctor.
Maybe. So, but there we go. Well, Shadyside.
Yeah.
MD. So, Maryland. But anyway, so Tim, you can see he sent a picture of the blue.
Yeah,
and he showed us
really
that it was
blue.
playing blind. He actually sent a video, Tim. And I just took a screenshot from the video because the video really only showed us that it was playing blind. He showed us this blue screen and that it's playing blind. And so that's what we have from Nat here. We basically have a Contra. And he says after a minute or two.
Yeah.
So
it's
like
interesting. It works fine, and
right.
then it changes to this.
Exactly. So it goes from working fine, and all of a sudden we get just a blue screen after about a minute or two. So what do you think's going on with Nat's Contra game here that we're shifting kind of to this blue after about a minute or two?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because most of the time, anytime you're getting monitor changes, it's going in and out. A lot of times, those are the simpler fix, like the cold solder joints and stuff. As they heat up, they're hitting that crack or whatever, and then you're losing it. That's where I would start with this one. I would definitely start touching up all the cold solder joints on it. After that, it may just be a cap or something that's bad, and it kind of starts off good, but it quickly loses its voltage and stuff. So a good time to do a cap kit on it and things like that.
Gotcha. Anything else before I put the slides?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that then. So easy enough. So let's start off by the repair by checking the input connection from the game board to the chassis. Make sure all the pins are connected properly on both sides, JAMA harness and chassis. Try touching up the solder joints on the input pins as well as any cold, cracked, and or broken solder joints. And it could be a color drive problem, Tim.
Like the blue is
right,
really...
exactly. And Paul actually said the same thing. Drive transistor on the blue is failing, and that's what we're mentioning here. So it could be that one of your color drives, specifically the blue, is failing, and so what it's doing is it's just letting all the blue through. Right, exactly. So we go from oh, okay, we got a black screen, it looks pretty good, and then all of a sudden it starts to push that blue through, and boom, we get blue screen. So absolutely could be a drive transistor problem here. So we would also recommend checking the power supply when the screen goes blue. If the voltage is out of range, try adjusting it back into range. It could be a voltage drop that's causing the video from the game board to drop out, something like that. And Paul also says model chassis would help. Absolutely. And we don't know that. He did not give us that information. So, Nat, if you will look at the back of your cabinet and your modern chassis and just take a picture of it and send it to us, we could probably identify what you have back there and give you better advice on what to repair from there. Because knowing the chassis model really does give us a lot better idea of how to do the repair. So for sure, but it could definitely be the color drive transistor, like Paul said, like we mentioned here. But it could also be an input connection. It could be a voltage drop. We could get an out of range. So like once the voltage drops, it could be that the video is dropping out, but the game is still playing. That's very possible. So I can't drive the video anymore, but we can drive the rest of the game, whatever. So, I mean, but any of those could be it. But if you need additional further help with this, please send us a picture of your chassis, of your monitor chassis in the back of your game, and we can help you out further and let you know exactly where you need to look in order to solve the problem.
I think that we had a game do that one time. I think it was red. The color, I think it was an old Mortal Kombat 1, or maybe it was even a Joust. I can't remember. I can remember looking in the chassis back there because it would do that. It would look fine, and then it would just go to the one color. And Paul was right that that one was the transistor on the neck board that was basically failing and letting too much red or whatever. I'm pretty sure it was red. So that probably, especially after he's saying that, it's really making me remember. That's probably where I would start first, other than just checking your general connections and stuff.
Right, and it could just be a cracked or cold or broken solder joint somewhere too. Mm-hmm. So always a good thing to check those as well. But hopefully that gives you at least some idea of where to start. And if you do need additional help, like we mentioned, send us a picture of that monitor chassis, and we'll try to help you out further on that issue. So. Let's see. YouTube Punk says blue screen of death. But yeah, absolutely could be a blue screen of death for sure. CRT shorting is what Paul also said, and that's very possible as well. We could have a short somewhere, like we mentioned. Guys, we can't say this enough. Michael would always just, when he took a chassis out of a game, very first thing he would do would be touch up solder on everything, and then he'd plug it back in to see if it worked. Because that fixes a huge amount of problems sometimes. Stuff like this, where it's just like it could be a little short somewhere. You just hit that real quick. I had a G07 one time that wasn't working, and it turned out to be a cold solder joint, a high voltage line. I mean, stuff like that happens all the time. So, touching up cracked, cold, or broken solder joints is always welcome. And our thing is, like, if we're gonna have the monitor out anyway, let's just put a cap kit on it while we got it out. Because I mean, if I'm gonna take all the time to take it out of the cabinet anyway, I might as well just put the cap kit on there if it hasn't had one in a while. So not that the cap kit necessarily will fix the issue. Cap kits do solve issues, but if those caps are old, it's probably a good idea just to replace them anyway, right? Tim?
Yeah, I'm wondering how many games we probably did a cap kit on that probably just had a bad solder joint.
Absolutely.
But it still fixed it.
Exactly. So the cap kit may have been a cold or cracked or broken solder joint that we just happened to touch up. But it does, like I said, I mean, if the caps are more than 5 or 10 years old, it's a good idea just to replace them anyway. So.
A good picture, though, he sent in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rexer Show, with my Sanyo and my DK cocktail, I had to use a jumper on the chassis to move the image slightly to get it centered, but that was with the 60-1. Yeah, so the Sanyo has jumpers for horizontal centering. Some have a horizontal centering pot that you can adjust, and then other ones have sometimes you have to adjust a horizontal width coil, right, Tim?
Mm-hmm.
Like to get the width out. So it just depends on the monitor. There's a lot of different ways to kind of get that centering kind of dialed in just right, depending on what you got. So, let's see. Make sure we're all caught up here, Tim. Oh, JH. On an asteroids, a dot appears in the middle of the screen sometimes. Is that spot killer, or how can I remedy this? I believe that is spot killer, right, Tim? So,
that's what we call it.
Yeah, exactly. There's a great document on black and white vector monitor troubleshooting. and I wish I had the link to it right now, but you can find it. And we have linked to it in our previous live shows, but I would highly recommend you check that out. It does go over the Electro Home and the Wells Garner versions of those, and has some great troubleshooting techniques on those particular games. And so if you've got a black and white Vector, highly recommend looking at the black and white Vector troubleshooting guide. And if you search for that on the internet, you will find it.
I think the Asteroids I used to play on all the time in the arcade had one, and I just thought it was part of the game. Or something. You know, it was like, I didn't know it could be fixed.
Right, exactly. So, but that sounds like you're starting to experience a little bit of spot color there for sure. Paul, color circuit is the easiest to troubleshoot because you have 2 other color circuits you can compare it to. That's right. So you can take parts out of one circuit and put it in the other circuit and see if it works.
Yep.
Super easy. So,
Switch
or meter.
transistors.
Do it with your meter. Boop, 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 boop. That one tests good. That one tests bad. That one tests good. Oh, that one's bad. You know, I mean, super easy. So, okay, I think we're caught up, Tim. So let us go to our next question, and this one is from Emile. Okay. And he says, "Hi, I have a Golden T4 complete arcade breadboard with what seems to be a CRT monitor issue. There's a buzzing noise coming from the unit, not sure the location. When there's a buzzing noise, the monitor shows a double image, and there is also a curved line running from the left side of the monitor, running from the top of the screen to the bottom. It looks like the image is being pushed to the right. When it stops buzzing, the monitor returns back to normal. Everything looks good. The video plays through, and there's no freezing. Let me know what you think. Thanks." So, Tim, we have Emile here, and he's got this Golden T4 complete with the red board, and it sounds like every so often it'll make this buzzing noise, and the monitor shows a double image.
Okay.
So, with a curved line running on the left side of the monitor, running from the top of the screen to the bottom, looks like the image is being pushed to the right almost. So I think he may be describing a roll here, Tim.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of a roll with a double screen.
To.
Right, exactly. And the monitor returns back to a normal image. Everything looks good. So, Tim, with this Golden T4, what do you think is going on here with Emile's game?
Well, sorry. It sounds like there's probably a short somewhere in there because, sorry, you guys, the connection to your monitor and the monitor chassis itself. So something's going on there that's causing that buzzing noise. The buzzing, and Paul can jump in here, is the key because it only happens at that time.
Right.
So you can start by removing the chassis and check for cold broken solder joints that we talked about earlier. And make sure that it's a sync wire and everything, but check your ground wires too. Make sure everything is good and grounded and nothing is shorting. But that buzzing noise to me is what's indicating that something is going out.
Right, exactly. And it sounds like a short somewhere. It really does, because the fact that we don't get it all the time would seem to indicate a short somewhere. And so, Tim, what I kind of recommended here, what I put on the slide, I think would be helpful. Let's go ahead and look at that. It sounds like there may be a short somewhere, either in the connection to your monitor chassis or on the monitor chassis itself. You might try gently moving the input wires and or tapping the chassis with the end of a screwdriver, like the handle end, when it's buzzing to see if it corrects the issue. Okay, so just kind of tap it with the handle end to see, okay, does this fix it? Okay, if it does, then you do definitely have a short. I will say that, okay? If when you tap it, it makes a difference in the connection, or it makes a difference in the screen, it goes from buzzing to not buzzing, we got a short somewhere that we probably need to check out. And so use the handle end, because that end is usually made out of rubber and is non-conductive, right? So be careful about that. But at least that'll help us identify what we may have going on. You can start off by removing the monitor chassis, and like we talked about earlier, just touching up the cracked, cold, or broken solder joints, especially on the sync line, because we're obviously having some maybe out of sync issues here. Make sure the sync wire is making a good connection between the game board and the chassis. Touch up the solder on any hold and sync pots, like the actual pots themselves they use for adjustment. This could cause the issue as well. Tim, we've seen this before where the hold pot will have a cold solder joint on one of the legs. And then what happens is that as it makes connection with the board, you'll get this buzzing, right? Because it's like basically that pot value now goes to 0, and then it goes to whatever the pot's rating, and 0 and back and forth. And so we get this buzzing. So it could be on a pot itself that we're having the issue. But there definitely seems like a short. The fact that it doesn't happen all the time and it only happens sporadically would seem to indicate as such. Again, tap it with the end of your screwdriver. See if you can see if you can find maybe a source for where that buzzing is coming from. You said you didn't narrow it down. Let's take that cabinet apart. Let's open the back of it and see if we can pinpoint the buzzing. That may help us as well. Tim, anything else here for Emile before we move on?
Yeah, I can kind of remember watching an arcade guy repair wearing the stethoscope before. I was like, where's this sound coming from, because, that's a good indicator of where your issue is.
Absolutely. So hopefully, though, if you can find it, a lot of times if we're having a connection issue like this, it could be, like we said, in the sync or the hold or something like that. It kind of sounds like a hold issue. just because of the way he describes it. Like when it goes to buzzing, it kind of sounds like it's going out of hold and then back into hold. And so that's why I mentioned the pots, is because we could have a broken solder joint or a broken leg on a pot that's just barely making connections sometimes. So, but start there. If you know the monitor chassis model, like we mentioned before, always a good thing to give us. So, or send us a picture of your chassis. We can probably tell you what it is, and we can help you out further. But start there. Check some sync wires. Check for some shorts. Tap on it a little bit with the handle of your screwdriver and see if you can maybe pinpoint in a location where there might be issues, and then go from there. See if we can touch up some solder in those areas, and let us know what you find. So,
Good.
Okay, let's go over here. You okay, Tim? Nate says. Sounds like you need to drink some water to clear your throat. He has water right here.
I do.
Yeah.
I mentioned it at the beginning. I'm very hoarse today.
And I can't hit the cough button fast enough to catch them. So,
Yeah.
Sorry. So I don't know if I'll be able to edit it out after the fact. I don't know.
Oh, that's all right.
But it is what it is. So hopefully you're okay. Just something
Yeah, I'm
little.
fine.
But to be honest with you, I've been fighting something similar to Tim, and I'm just now getting over it.
I yelled over at the Mavericks game too loud.
Yeah, I was about to say, that'll do it. If I go to a sporting event, I'm going to be hoarse the next day for sure. I'm a yeller, guys. So, let's see. Danny, how often do you recommend turning your arcades even when you're not playing? Turning on your arcades even when you're not playing them? Would it be good? And would it be good for them to do that? It's up to you. I think you can leave them off all the time, and that's fine. If you want to turn them on, that's fine too. I don't think there's any right time to do either. So
we usually say at least once a month. I wouldn't go months and months without it, because they're meant to be played and stuff. And but it's still a pot shoot no matter what.
Exactly. So turning them on just to check them every so often is never a bad idea though. So I mean, that's something to do. Even if you're not turning them on, though, if they've got batteries on the board, make sure you're either taking those batteries out or replacing them as needed. If they've got, any kind of maintenance things that you need to do, make sure you do that stuff, of course. So, I was thinking batteries, Tim, like with Williams games, like make sure that you're replacing those, or that you put in like one of the high score save chips to where, the flash chips to where you don't need the batteries anymore. That'd be really great. But, pinball machines are also susceptible to like battery leakage and stuff like that. So make sure you're taking either, remove the batteries completely or make sure you're changing them out periodically, just like you change out your smoke alarms. Like daylight savings time or daylight saving time.
Usually February and October or something like that. We always kind of looked at our batteries at work.
Exactly. Yeah. Just make sure that you replace those as needed. The worst thing that can happen to a board is battery leakage. It's awful. And Tim, I've gone to buying brands that don't leak or that advertise that they don't leak. So I try to buy AA batteries that say like leak proof, like on Amazon. So I buy some off-brand stuff that actually has pretty good battery life, but they literally say leak-proof. Don't buy Duracell. I'm calling them out, Tim. No Duracells. No Duracells. I used to be a big Duracell believer, Tim.
Really?
No, but they leak. Have you not seen it?
Yeah.
Tell me you guys have not seen... Worse than Energizer. Like Duracells leak worse than Energizer. Get you Energizers if you're looking at majors.
What's your preferred brand now then?
Actually, I think it's Vonco.
Okay.
Is what I buy now. So I think that's the name of it. So, which is just some generic brand on Amazon, Tim. But I tell you what, the battery life in them is good, and they advertise leak proof.
Okay.
Okay. Look, I'm still not going to leave them in a game for too long. But at least if they advertise leak proof, I feel better about it. You know what I'm saying? So, I will look it up. I'll look it up here maybe a little bit. If you stay tuned to the after show, I'll look it up in between. So, a Vonico or something like that. Some generic brand. But they work pretty well and haven't any issues. I used to be a big believer in Duracells, Tim. I used to. But no, Energizer, guys. Energizer. If you're buying majors, let's go Energizer.
Okay.
So, let's see. Joe says, good excuse to play. Baby, I got to go warm my games up. Yep. There you go. Exactly. Knights of Vault says, batteries leak like crazy here in Seattle. Yeah, and it depends on your where you live and the conditions that you live in. That's a big part of why batteries leak, So, but I will say that Duracells seem to be worse. I don't know why. Like I said, used to be a big believer. So... Yeah, moisture. Yeah, moisture has a lot to do with it. So if you live in a humid environment like we do, it seems to happen more often here, for sure. So, okay, Tim, let us go to Nathan.
Okay.
Okay, Nathan's question is, I have a Donkey Kong Jr. 2. It's TWO. Okay. I think that's my misspelling, Tim.
Okay.
Or, Donkey Kong Jr. 2 board. Oh, okay, I don't know. Maybe he just put it in there. I usually just copy and paste them. So anyway, I just got, power seems to be correct to the board. When you turn the game on, you hear the jump sound, and then basically nothing else after that. The monitor just shows green. No coin-up noise. It's not playing blind. Any help would be appreciated. So we got a Donkey Kong Jr. board that he just got. Okay, so Tim, he probably has a Donkey Kong Jr. cabinet. I would assume that maybe it has a working board in it now. Okay, so that's how he knows. Okay, I got this other board, and now I'm not getting nothing on it. So obviously, Tim, this is not playing blind, right?
Right.
So probably more of a game board issue.
That's what I would lean. Either that or just by switching the boards out, those connectors can be really, they can be really picky and stuff. So, or you just get a pin off or something. Make sure, especially those rainbow type connectors are really good in seated in there. And of course, if you got the working board, you know it's in the board. But that's definitely, it's not playing blind, so it's probably not a monitor issue.
Absolutely. So, Tim, I did a little bit of research.
Okay.
And I this is some of the stuff we already knew about Donkey Kong boards, but I did throw this up here because it does seem like when we get this kind of, like where we get this startup sound, we don't get anything else, probably either a voltage or a RAM issue. And so that's kind of what we've got here. So it does sound like an issue with your Donkey Kong Jr. game board, this one in particular. So first off, let's use a multimeter to check the voltages on the video board, okay, which is the one that's on the back. Make sure that the rainbow connector, and I said rainbow in quotes just because it looks rainbow, is hooked up, and that if you're using the edge connector to connect the game board to the cabinet. If you're using the multiple connectors, you don't have to worry about that because one of those multiple connectors will be the voltage. But if you're using the edge connector, you need that rainbow connector to act as a jumper to the video board. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay, so make sure that connection is made all the way around. And you'll know if it's not, because if you check voltage on the video board and you ain't getting no voltage there, then you definitely have an issue getting with that rainbow connector, more than likely. Either it's missing or it's not making a good connection, or there's some issues there, so make sure you check that. Be sure to also check the 50-pin connector in that area as well. That's the little ribbon cable, Tim. And ribbon cables are a known source of issues, for sure. So always make sure you check the ribbon cables between boards. Very important. And Tim, I actually highlighted it in red up at the top there so you can see. The board not booting like this can also be caused by RAM issues. So check the 2114 RAM chips on the CPU board at locations 4A, B, and C and replace as needed. So Tim, I took a screenshot of the board and just highlighted those 4 right there. So
nice.
The nice thing about Donkey Kong boards is, like a lot of older arcade boards, they have the rows and columns labeled. So it's very easy to find, A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4 across the top and the side. So very easy to find these chips, and you might just want to replace them if they don't check out. Those are standard RAM chips, so you can check the voltage on them, make sure they're good there, and you can actually check to see if there's a grounded pin or something like that as well. If you know the pinouts on those, or you can check the TTNL for that as well. So I can't remember what it is offhand. I should probably know that. But anyway, so yeah. And of course, we have a great post on inspecting an arcade board that you may want to look at as well. So, because that's got some great information on it too. So those would be the places to start. Let's start at that rainbow connector. Let's start at that 50-pin ribbon cable, and then let's check the 2114 RAM chips to make sure in the positions A, B, and C, 4A, 4B, 4C, and make sure that those are working properly. Replace if needed. So there you go. Anything else, Tim?
No, good job, Johnson.
There you go.
A lot of good info.
There you go. So that gives you a good place to start. Not necessarily going to solve your issue, but I think hopefully between that, we'll at least have a better idea of exactly where the problem is. Tim, it could be the CPU. It's possible that it's failed. That seems more rare, I think. But, I mean, it's possible. So you may want to, you could always replace that as well to see. Since you have a working Donkey Kong board, you could just move the CPU over from that if you're adventurous. So, or you could do the same with the RAM chips. So I don't know. I can't remember if those are socketed or if those are soldered. If they're soldered, you might as well just buy new ones. If they're socketed, though, it may be worth swapping them from the working board. So, anything else for Nathan here before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
Sounds good. So Nathan hopefully answers your question, and good luck getting that Donkey Kong Jr. board up and running. And Tim, I think we have one more question before we get to the quick questions and answers. But I'm going to look over here at the live chat real quick. Let's see. Knights of Old, what's your go-to cleaning supply for leaked batteries? So, for leaked batteries, man, vinegar and alcohol, I guess, are like the two big ones that I go with, as far as cleaning that stuff out of there. So, alcohol and vinegar are like it. More often than not, alcohol. But, man, if the acid has started to eat away at the board, that sucks.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times that means you're going to have to rebuild traces and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, you can... If the acid isn't too bad, you should be able to clean it up with some alcohol, vinegar, and some other things. But if it's bad, if it's starting to damage the board, man, like I said, that's where it starts getting real tricky. So, you just have to do you have to basically rebuild all of the traces and things like that, and it can be a headache. So, it is what it is. But, yeah, alcohol is probably my first number one. I'll do vinegar sometimes, depending.
Yeah,
so,
usually rubbing alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. So I have distilled white vinegar down here, Tim. So something like that. But alcohol is probably my first go-to. You used to have some CPU cleaner stuff that
you can buy it. It's in a can. I'm
was it? It was a deoxit, was it?
Yeah, it's
something.
I
can't remember.
It had like a brush on the end, and as you squirt it, you kind of use the brush to clean it. I'm sure that just any kind of electronics, Radio Shack carried it back in the day, but of course I don't even know if you can buy it online there anymore. But some kind of electronics cleaner like that. Best Buy probably has some stuff like that.
Yeah, somebody said deoxit. I think it was deoxit. Let me look real quick. We're actually going to Google something live on the air because this makes for great television right here, right?
Sure.
Exactly. I'm going to have Tim sing the national anthem while he's doing that because that's royalty free. So, so there we go.
Happy birthday, right?
Yeah, let's see. Or happy birthday. That's exactly right. Deoxit is, I think it is one that you can use for that. Yeah, like contact treatment enhancer protector, it says. But that's not what he's talking about. You're talking about more of like a...
it's like tech spray or something.
Yeah, tech spray or something. I know what you're talking about. So it's got a little brush on the end. A little bit different. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that. I mean, you could use, but you want to be careful, obviously, especially if it's on a circuit board, so that you're using, something kind of gentle. So if that makes sense. Okay, Tim, let's go. Oh, hang on. Razor Show says Bray's website has great info with Donkey Kong board issues. Yes, it does. So that's another place to go. Of course, we talked about last month that Bray's is no longer selling the multi-game boards or products, which is kind of sad, but they still have great information on their website if you guys want to check it out. So, okay, Tim, let's go to this last big question here from James. And Tim, now James, if you're watching this, James, you wrote us an entire thesis on leaf switches, which I appreciate.
Okay.
I only took the highlights of what we needed really to answer the question. So we did read the whole thing. Okay, I did read the whole thing. Tim, he went through a lot of tweaking. He's trying to get his Miss Pac-Man joystick to feel like the arcade style.
Okay.
And so that's really what the gist of the question was. But let's go ahead and just read kind of the summarized version of that I threw up here real quick.
Okay.
I recently purchased my first upright Miss Pac-Man cabinet, and the joystick doesn't feel quite as reliable as the one I've used in the arcades. The problem is I don't know what variables to focus on within the setup, since I'm not sure how my hardware compares to what's inside the arcade cabinets. It has a mostly original Pac-Man joystick, though it looks like there are two different pairs of leaf switches. Each pair has slightly different contact surfaces. I played hundreds of hours of Miss Pac-Man on a handful of different arcades, and although each joystick feels a little different from one to the next, I found the turning, cornering on my setup just isn't nearly as reliable as what I play in the arcades. Do you have any tips on fine-tuning the calibration of a leaf switch joystick as in OEM measurements? Now, Tim, I will say he does mention in the original question that he is using a converter board. So I think the cabinet is wired JAMA. He's got an adapter to maybe a multi-pack board. Okay. So he's not using original hardware.
I got you.
Okay. So that is one thing to keep in mind. But that should not deter him. That should not deter the cornering / turning from being any different between arcade cabinets, I would think. So what's his best bet to go about making sure that he's got a reliable joystick? Maybe that's a really good way to say it. A reliable leaf joystick.
The Rexer Show should maybe be those really dedicated players.
Right.
They can tell the difference.
Sure. And this guy, James, seems like that. I mean, and like I said, he wrote an entire book on all the stuff he had done to try to tweak these leaf switches, which we do appreciate. It is amazing. But it's he just couldn't get it the way he wanted it to feel, right? And like you said, players can be picky, right? I mean, as operators, we're not nearly as picky. If it works, a lot of times we're fine. But people who are dedicated to playing games definitely are more picky about their joystick. So, but I think he's looking for more consistency and reliability. That's what he wants. He's like, the turning and the cornering just aren't reliable on his joystick. What are some things he can do to increase that reliability on his turning and cornering? Now, cornering is a concept I am familiar with in Pac-Man cabinets, Tim. That's where you press the direction you want to go just a hair before you get there, and it lets you go that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's cornering, and we'll see that a lot. Like, real good Pac-Man players use cornering very well in order to make sure that they traverse the maze properly. And so cornering can be a big thing to a Pac-Man player. Totally get that. And so what are some ways he can make sure his cornering and turning is reliable on his arcade cabinet?
Well, from everything we've researched, and our good friend Steve that made us go through about 8 joysticks, I think, before he was ever happy. You're going to want a leaf style joystick. And so if you don't have that...
Well, he definitely has that.
Make sure that you don't have an 8-way, though. you want to make sure it's a true 4-way.
Right.
So
And that's a key. So any kind of classic game, you want to make sure you have the 4-way. Do not have the 8-way. What happens in an 8-way, Tim, if I hit a diagonal with a 4-way game?
it doesn't know what to do.
It may confuse it.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we have a 4-way leaf stick in there. It could be that the leaf joystick you have in there now is an 8-way, and so when you're going to corner, you may be hitting the diagonal, which may be confusing the game.
And I'm just going to be honest and tell you a lot of it's trial and error. This is what I would do. I would order me about 10 leaf switches. And different ones. And I would just put them on there and start playing with it and see which one I like the best. And then a lot of it, man, we're talking about millimeters of a difference. Even your hole will give up a little bit of slack. So try to tweak each one. Let's say that you don't really like the way it goes left, but you like the way it goes right. Look at the difference. What is it about the right one that feels good that doesn't? And some of it's just really getting in there, and a new one's always going to be a little bit easier to adjust to me.
Right.
And then you can kind of go from there.
Now,
and then if you get it gets worse, that's why I said I'd buy about 10 of them, and I just throw it out and start over.
Right.
Sometimes it's just that difficult to get them just lined up how you like it.
Agreed. So one thing to keep in mind, though, is if you do buy a new one, a lot of times they come stiff.
Yes.
Which means that you have to kind of work it a little bit before it gets comfortable, I would say.
I know we got some players in the chat room. I'd like to hear some of you guys chime in. And what do you do? I mean, I personally will just bend. I'll make them a little more sensitive or less sensitive depending on. That's just getting them a little closer. Sometimes it takes like 2 pairs of really thin needle nose or something, kind of working against each other. Making sure they're good and clean and that they're making good contact. There's a couple things that you can try, but I'm telling you, it's just a lot of trial and error and getting it down just like you like it. But it definitely makes a difference if you're a really good player, which I am not.
Yeah, exactly me either. So a couple of things here. Rexer Show says Mike's Arcade has a leaf joystick that is good. So if you're looking for a replacement, you may order the one from Mike's Arcade. Let's see. Mark says, too bad no one makes a leaf style joystick for Pac-Man. They do. So, I mean, you can get them, but he may want to keep the original. Some people like the original.
Yeah.
YouTube Punk says, sounds like he has Pac-Man fever. That's about right. Let's see. Paul says all his Pac-Man machines have the original joystick, and it's a must.
That's what I'm telling you. I've seen the replacement ones, and I can't tell the difference, but I can put it in a game, and Steve's that guy, that we could use to test the joystick out. And Steve was like, nope, he'd rather have one beat up one off of eBay, I think, than some brand new one. There's just something about them. They just feel different.
I understand, though. I am very particular about my joysticks and certain things as well. So I understand. Fighting games for sure. I'm very particular about my joystick. Let's see. Mark says, it's what makes the game fun to play. That's right. Mm-hmm. So if it's not the right joystick, it can. Rector Show says, cornering or buffering the turns is critical to making the patterns work. You save frames when you buffer the turns. I did not know that. You just taught me something. So I'm not as much of a player like we talked about. So
it's interesting that he says he likes to get his from Max Arcade. If he says that he likes those, you would probably like them too.
Yes.
If you're a real player.
Right. Let's see. Danny said, let's see. I'm trying to just get the ones on this. I am a mad lad. This is from Nate, and I use Samuel joysticks over Hap, but I play more fighting games. I love Hap joysticks for fighting games, but that's because that's what I grew up on. So it just depends. Reggie Show says, I use the Class of 81 joystick replica, which is different from the Pac-Man joystick, but some people like the way that feels over a leaf. Leaf switch joysticks can feel mushy, but that is how it was. Exactly. Back in the day, that's how it was. You're exactly right. And I've always heard this too, Nate. I agree. The zippy joysticks are the absolute worst. I've heard the zippies are terrible.
Yeah.
So, but as far as leaf switch joysticks go, yeah. I mean, apparently Mike's Arcade has a good one, but you can always, and that's the thing Tim's saying here, just replace the switches too. Yeah. If you just want to replace the switches, that's an option. So let me go ahead and throw this up here, Tim, since I think we got everything covered in the live chat about it. But first off, let's make sure that your leaf switch based joystick is a 4-way joystick. It could be an 8-way. Somebody may have put the wrong style in there. If you do that and you hit a direction, it can confuse the game and cause the turning/cornering issues that you're describing. So since you have different styles of leaf switches on your joystick, you might try ordering 4 all-new leaf switches to replace them. This should at least give you better consistency between the switches, as there's no telling the age of the ones that are currently installed on your joystick. A new leaf switch joystick is an option as well, just like we talked about, right, Tim?
Right.
So those are really your options. Your options are, okay, we can replace the leaf switches we currently have. We need to make sure that we do have a 4-way style leaf switch joystick, and we may need to replace the joystick altogether in order to get the feel that we want.
For sure.
Is that right?
That sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, so I think we've covered all the bases there by saying that. So those are kind of your options there is let's replace the leaf switches on the joystick, see if that works. Maybe we'll order a whole new leaf switch joystick from like mikesarcade.com or somewhere like that. And then just make sure that you do have a 4-way style. Sometimes operators may accidentally replace them with an 8-way style. It may not be accidental. It may be the only thing that was in their toolbox the day they came to they came to fix it.
True that.
And so there may be an 8-way style leaf switch joystick in there. If that's the case, you will need to replace it with a 4-way to get that kind of consistency that you're looking for. Tim, do you have anything else here for James before we move on?
No, I don't think so. I think we hit that one pretty good.
Sounds good. So James, hopefully answers your question, and good luck finding the right balance in your joystick play, the way that you want it to play. So, okay, Tim, it's time for the quick question and answers section of the show. Before we do that, I will go back over to the live chat. I did see some stuff over here. Let's see. Phaser also said he could look at replacing the centering grommet. It could be that the grommet in the center is not centered properly. That could be causing some leaf switch connection issues as well.
Just worn.
Yeah, it could be just worn. So you may need to adjust that as well. We34, I'm thinking about buying an Asteroids Deluxe that's playing in the blind, able to rebuild the black and white vector monitor and make it work. Worried about finding another vector monitor. So, you can most of the time rebuild them unless it's a tube issue. So if if it's complete, you always have a shot. But if the tube is shot, you're kind of out of luck. That's the key. That's the one thing we don't want. In fact, the tube can be replaced. I think it's really the. There's just part. I say that. I think as long as the tube is in good shape, you should be okay to rebuild, right?
Yeah.
So and we mentioned earlier about the black and white vector repair guide, troubleshooting guide online, and I wish I had a link to that. That's what you want to look at, and it has both. It has information on both the Geo 8, right, which is the vector black and white, and the Wells Gardner. Is it 6100?
Yeah, 6000.
Yeah, 6000 series. Both those black and white vector monitors are in there, and so as long as you go by the guides have pretty much all the information you need as far as troubleshooting those black and white monitor stuff. So check those out, and you should be able to get it working as long as the tube itself is in pretty good shape. So let's see. Where's the best place to buy JAMA harness? Well, I was gonna say the same thing, right, Tim?
Holland Computers.
HollandComputers.com. RichardArcade.us. So see our video on which JAMA or looking to buy JAMA harness. This one is the best. Yep. That is the best. So, and there's reasons why, and we give them in the video. So always going to be HollandComputers.com, RichardArcade.us. And check out the video if you want to hear the reasons. We give good reasons. And the main one is they print the freaking pinouts in English on the connector.
Right.
That will always be the best thing about that harness. Look, there's good things about the age of the wires on there, and it comes with a monitor connector, and it already has the fork terminals on it. There's a lot of other things that are good about that harness, but the best thing is that you don't have a freaking sticker over the edge connector. It is printed in English on the connector. So, good stuff. Let's see what else we have here. I think is that everything? Okay. Mark says, I say a 4-way leaf style joystick on Mike's Arcade for $16.95. I had no idea. Yeah, they're still there. So you can get one there. So that'd be the place to get one if you need one. So Mike's Arcade sells a lot of great stuff. Man, they do. And I guess Mike's Arcade's passed all the stuff that happened with the shop, like all of the they seem to be shipping out orders, no problem. So good for them. I love Mike's Arcade. Let's see. And Razor Show says, "Yep, you make sure you select the 4-way one because he has an 8-way too." Yeah, and there are a lot of games that use the 8-way leaf style joystick. But if you're talking about like classic arcade games, like Miss Pac-Man, obviously. I mean, those are 4-way style leaf switches. Make sure you get the right one. Yes. So for the game that you have. So very important. Okay, I think we're caught up. Cool. So, quick question and answer time, Tim.
Okay.
So, if you're new to the show, this is where I fire 3 questions, rapid fire at Tim, and he gives me 3 quick answers back. Mm-hmm. Usually, yes. And that way we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on them, but we do want to answer these questions because they came in as well. So, a lot of these are a little bit shorter than some of the questions we've already covered, but we'll do these rapid fire fashion at Tim. So, Tim, let's go ahead and look at these.
All right.
Okay, we have the first one from Ron. I have a Hotshot 21 arcade that is not working. The side lights are blinking, but it has a blank TV screen. It's on, but nothing is showing. And Tim, I actually have a URL here. I think I forgot to put that down below. Sorry about that. But it is a kind of hybrid pinball slash TV base game. So so it's not working. Side lights are blinking, but nothing on the TV screen. That's what we got with that. So that's from Ron. Joe says I have a Gorf with a 4600 in it. On occasion, I get a vertical stripe through the screen north to south, and other times it plays fine. I'm thinking something needs to be resoldered, but what? And then we have Oliver, who says, I'm having a problem where I only get a picture for a few seconds after I turn it on. I don't know how to get to the fuse. I have a Vertical Classics arcade, if that helps. So we have Ron with a Hotshot 21 that doesn't have a TV screen on. We have Joe with a Gorf arcade, a K4600 that has a vertical stripe through the screen sometimes. And then we have Oliver with a picture, comes on for a second when he turns it on and then goes off. And so he's wondering if it's a fuse or something else. So Tim, let's go ahead and take these rapid fire here. So the first one, this Hotshot 21, is, like I said, it's kind of a hybrid pinball machine with a screen on it. So obviously he's not getting the picture on the screen that's in the back glass. So what's going on with this? What can he do in order to make sure that he can get it working?
Well, we're always going to start at power and make sure that the power supply is sending the correct voltage to the game board and the screen. And it could be a board issue if it's got the right voltage.
Right, and unfortunately, I don't know much about the game.
Like I said, really pretty rare game and pretty old.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even think I've ever seen one in person. And so, really, though, anytime we're having issues where we're just... it sounds like he's getting, like, just GI lighting, basically. And so, anytime you're getting GI lighting, you probably have a board issue somewhere. So let's make sure or a power supply issue. Let's start at power, make sure we're getting power there, and then go on. Check and maybe troubleshoot the board if needed. Okay, Joe, K4600, vertical stripes sometimes. What can he check, Tim?
Well, he's got a cap issue, probably a vertical deflection problem. Check the card, the horizontal vertical card. Rebuild the solder. I mean, I think you list some specific caps on it, but you might as well just rebuild the whole thing while you got it out.
Yeah, exactly. So the nice thing about the 4600, Tim, is it uses the card system. So if he's having a vertical problem, obviously it's on the horizontal vertical card. Pull it out. Let's fix it. And then, so... Oliver had this weird one where, like he said, it's just like it comes on and it goes off, and he thinks it's a fuse, Tim. So what do you think's going on with Oliver's game?
It's probably not a fuse. If it was a fuse, it would just stop and not work again until you replaced it. But it could be a computer inside. I don't know what's powering this game. It's kind of a generic type game, but it could be a computer inside. It's not booting. A lot of it depends. What front end is he running and stuff. Maybe he just needs to reload the software, but I'm not really sure. He needs to send some more pics if possible.
Sounds good. Okay, well, let's go ahead and summarize all that stuff real quick. So, Tim, we had Ron here. Ron had the Hotshot 21 that we just talked about. So let's always start at power, Tim. Make sure that the power supply is sending the correct voltage to the game board and the screen. Replace if needed, and it could be a board issue. We don't know for sure, so make sure that you check that the board is getting power. That's going to be very important. It sounds like all you're getting right now is maybe power to, like I said, the general illumination for the game. And so if that's the case, you will need to make sure that your game board's getting voltage and the TV as well. Make sure that TV's getting power as well. So Joe, obviously, could be a vertical deflection problem, like Tim mentioned. Check the parts on the horizontal vertical card, specifically the TR301 through 307 transistors and capacitors 310 and 311, and a C633. That is not on the HV card, Tim, but you do need to check that as well. Cold, cracked, and or broken solder joints, always, Tim, especially on the pins where that card connects to. Yeah. So make sure that those are making a good connection as well. And Tim, I did a picture of the HV board here so he can see what it looks like, of course. And then Oliver, Vertical Classics, we have no idea if that's what that is. It sounds like it could just be a generic name for a multi-game cabinet. It could be that the game has a computer inside and it's just not booting. Okay, we've seen this before. You might open it up and let us know what you find. Send pics if you can. Okay, because we don't know what's in there. I mean, the way you're saying that the monitor comes on and goes off sounds almost like if I was using a Raspberry Pi, Tim, or a PC to power it. Sounds like it's coming on for a second because like the signal is there, like just like a computer monitor would. It comes on for a second, and then there's no signal, so it goes back off. Kind of sounds like that. Yeah. And so if that's the case, then it may be more of a board/computer issue of some sort. So send us some pictures of the inside. Let us know what you find. We'd be happy to help you out further. Is that everything, Tim? Anything else on these?
No, I don't think so.
I tell you what, that Hotshot 21 is very unique. I
like the pictures there.
Yeah, and these are very tiny. I wish I could. I'll put the URL back up here so you guys can see. So that bit.ly/Hotshot21 redemption. It's an actual redemption game, but like I said, it's more of a kind of half pinball, half video pinball kind of thing. But it's redemption. So unlike like Granny and the Gators or Baby Pac-Man,
Right.
this is a little bit older. It has a bigger screen in the back, and like I said, it's more of a pinball machine with a TV.
Neat.
I don't know how much the TV integrates with the game. So
Yeah, I've never seen one before.
yeah, I've never seen one in person. I've seen like some photos and things from different things, but I've never seen one in person. So a very unique piece, and so it may have some board issues, and I think it's fairly old, Tim. So more than likely, it's probably got some issues just from age, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that helps him out, though. Again, start power on that one. Let us know where you get. So anything else, Tim, on any of these questions that we covered tonight?
Nope.
Cool. Okay, well, we're going to get to the news section of the show here in just a second. I'm going to catch back up with the live chat real quick. Let's see. Real Hammer Billy Lee says he always goes with the Twisted Quarter Super Jam harness. That's a good one, too. I don't have anything against that one. We've used that one before, Tim. Been very happy with it. We just like the Holland computers. So nothing wrong with the Super Harness. It's good stuff. Big D Retro, so glad that some of these original parts are still out there. I just purchased a new old stock Defender marquee. Looks beautiful. You cannot tell it's new old stock. I felt like I won a small lotto. Yeah, so there you go. Now, I will say the reproductions on stuff like that are really good too, to be honest with you, right, Tim? Like some of those reproduction marquees are almost as good as the originals. So, Nate, a lot of CRT issues tonight. Yeah, I mean that's one of the big things with arcade games, right? Monitors.
I think so.
Yeah, for sure.
And probably more questions we get about anything else as a monitor issue.
And he says, just wish they were easier to fix. I send mine to the Sharp Image Repair. My soldering skills are bad. Yeah. And, I tell you what, we had that soldering kit that was on sale a while back from Amazon. Like, get that. Because I had some real detailed soldering that you could do on it. Or if you want to practice, get you one of those little build electronics kits from like Amazon. It used to be Radio Shack,
right?
But now you can still get them from Radio Shack, but they're more expensive. Go to Amazon and like get like a little build your own radio kit, and that'll teach you how to solder. I mean, because they just send you a little board and you solder the stuff to it. Yeah. And I mean, after a while, you'll just get good at it. So go through a couple of those. I need to get that for my kids. I think my daughter's probably old enough to start doing that kind of stuff, if she wanted to. And so she got her big gift from Santa was a robot, Tim.
Ah.
So she likes to, and she knows how to program it. So she knows how to program robots, and in fact, she's in robotics club at her school. But as far as doing like the building stuff, like the electronic stuff, I think we need to probably show her a little bit of that and how that works too.
That'd be cool.
For sure. So if you need help soldering, go on to Amazon and get you like a soldering practice kit or a build your own radio kit. They have a lot of those. And there's an alarm clock kit too. There's an alarm clock kit. There's like a radio kit. And those are the same kits, very similar to the ones that used to have at Radio Shack when we were kids, that you would build your own radio and stuff. So, and I mean, who couldn't use another radio? I mean, you got to listen to baseball somehow.
Right.
That's how I listen to baseball. We all know that. So, you need a good AM radio. I'm just saying. Let's see. And Sharp Image Repair is great, but I'd also recommend sending it to our friend Paul, who's here in the live chat.
For sure.
Depending on what you got. So if you have a Sharp Image monitor, I will say that like Enrique is really great at fixing those because he worked for Sharp Image. So, but I mean, if you've got something Paul can fix, Paul's pretty reasonable and does a great job too.
I agree.
So paulsmonitors.com. Paul's in the live chat tonight. Shout out to Paul. So give him some business. So if you contact him and he can fix your monitor, he'll tell you. He's real familiar with most of the models. So Knights of Old, my friend has an estate house with a whole finished basement, game basement full of early pre-pinball machines. Minnie Williams, Gold Mine, or too old. So let's see. What do you think, Tim? So like it says pre-pinball machine.
Wow.
So Minnie Williams games. So pre-pinball machines.
Yeah, I don't know what do you mean by pre-pinball machines, because you go back to the 1700s.
Right, exactly. Like, are we talking about real pinball, like pinball?
Yeah.
Or are we talking like
the old vintage? I love vintage stuff, and
right.
There's the people that collect them, or they always bring good money. Mm-hmm. Return on investment is probably really good, but they're pain to work on. A lot of stuff I couldn't even work on. It's
right.
just I don't know how all that stuff works.
Yeah,
I understand circuit boards and stuff, electronics, but how some of those old slot machines and stuff work with no electronics in them is amazing.
Yeah. So if you're talking about electromechanicals can be tough to troubleshoot. It takes a lot of patience, a lot of time. It's just all switches. So a lot of times they're having a problem. It's a stuck switch somewhere.
Yeah, definitely not my
or a stuck reel.
Area of expertise.
Exactly. Or something stuck somewhere. And so you just have to trace down all the connections and make sure everything's connected properly. So I mean the switches in electromechanical work no different than the same. It's the same on and off premise that like a board works on. It's the same kind of thing, right? Yep. And so I mean it just, like I said, it just takes it takes time to troubleshoot. So if you've got time to kind of go through switches, make sure things are connected properly, then I mean you can troubleshoot them, but it is time consuming. That's the biggest part. Whereas with a board, you can take out a board and you can fix it a little bit easier because you can remove it from the cabinet, which is nice, right? Exactly. You can follow things around, but a little bit easier to follow depending on the model. The new ones are not so repair friendly, obviously, since we've gone to like the new bus based systems and things like that, which you have those little small boards and stuff. That's a little bit different, but yeah, I mean anything from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, it's pretty easy to troubleshoot because it's electronic, just like arcade games are. So I mean, but like I said, you can do electromechanical, and it's not that they're complicated. It's just a lot of time to find a stuck switch, Right. So let's see. Nate says he sends mostly the MS8 and MS9 stuff too. So these pinballs are a hard sell. Most pinballs are not late 70s to current. They're hard to sell and harder to fix. Yeah, exactly. So if it's not late 70s to current, that's the stuff. That's harder stuff to do. Also hard to find parts. Rejected Maniac. That is correct.
Yeah.
YouTube Punk. I recommend John's arcade videos on where he diagnoses the EM pinball. Also Joe's Arcade. Yes. So there's some great videos on YouTube about EM repair. John Costa down in Houston has a business where he does that, and we've got some videos with him on our YouTube page from the Houston show. He does that work, and he's brilliant at it. So if you're looking for somebody to repair and you're near Houston, highly recommend John Costa if he's still doing that stuff. So, let's see. So yeah, I think we're caught up, Tim. We good? Okay. So news has been sparse, to say the least, because, we got Christmas and getting into the new year. But there are a couple of things that we can talk about, Tim, here, that we did post on the Facebook page and just in general. So our first news story is the Nova Blast Candy Cabinet. Have you seen this, Tim?
Yes.
So Unico got a lot of notoriety. I think we covered, Tim, when they released their 4x3 LCD monitor, which is pretty popular. People have had some issues with like the resolution on it and stuff, but they say they're coming out with a fix for that, which is good. But now they've announced that they announced a Nova Blast Candy Cabinet, and they did the pricing as well. So it's technically like a bar top, Tim, but you can get a base to it to give it a full-size arcade feel. So which gives you a total of 62 inches. Now, candy cabinets typically you sit down at anyway. So 62 inches, I know that's not like full-size arcade cabinet, but for a candy cab, it's pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, because candy cabs you typically sit down at anyway.
It's kind of like a cabaret.
Yeah. So it's built from metal and has a state-of-the-art system, Tim, that allows it to accept multiple arcade PCBs via different edge connector adapters. The monitor installed in is a 26-inch LCD 4x3. So it's probably the same one that we've seen them advertise as a standalone on their website, Tim. And it does accept the CGA, EGA, HDMI, and VGA with 1440 by 1080 resolution. The price for the deluxe package, which includes the bar top cabinet plus its base, is $11.99 and will ship in April. And Tim, to be honest with you, that's not a bad price for what you're getting, I feel like. So, I mean, I think people say like the Vuelix cabinets are not a whole lot more, and people feel like the build quality on them is really great. So I don't know how this would compare with that. People who are into candy cabs probably have a better idea than I do. But I will say, I mean, just watching their videos for this, it looks pretty fun.
Yeah, it looks fun.
Yeah, and I mean, they had two of them linked together in some of the videos that I saw. So they were playing the game, they were playing one game between the two cabinets, and it's a two-player cabinet. And seems to be comfortable for two players to get around. Probably a lot more comfortable than an arcade 1-up. So I mean, people get around those. So it's a little on the high side, but I think it's all metal. You're not getting that from arcade 1-up for sure. So I mean, you're getting a pretty solid cabinet here, and I do think that for the price, seems like a good deal. Unico, of course, Tim made the Neo Geo setup, the Neo Geo bar top with the stand that a lot of people like. Looks just like a Neo Geo cabinet. And so this is just they're kind of getting into more of the generic market with this for people who want to go maybe the MAME route or something else. And so if you need a cabinet and you want something solid, $1,200, plus shipping, I'm sure, seems like a pretty good deal for what you get. We got Rob here. Rob says, I've got the 19-inch Unico for my Fix It Felix build. When I powered it up, all I got was a white screen waiting on the driver board to arrive. So I'm on the fence about their quality right now. Oh. That's good to know. Thank you for the update on that, Rob. So like I said, I've heard good things about them from the people who own the Neo Geo cabinets, but again, your mileage may vary, right, Tim?
For sure. It's better to hear from somebody that actually has experience with them. Hopefully they'll be able to correct it without charging you more.
I've seen the videos from the 26, and for the most part, I think it's fine. Some people were complaining about resolution and stuff, but to be honest with you, it looked nice to me. So, I mean, I would consider buying one and replacing my 25 with one of their 26s. especially if I was an arcade operator.
Mm-hmm.
And they were pretty reasonable. What are they, $300-$400? I mean, for a 4x3 that does a direct replacement, it's not bad.
Not too bad.
So, for sure. But, yeah, I mean, look, no matter who the manufacturer is, you're going to get a bad one every so often. So I wouldn't necessarily count them out. I mean, obviously, Rob, you're probably going to have to find out once you get your new one whether or not it's whether or not you like their quality. But, you know, you're going to have bad ones from time to time. At least you found out when you got out of the box and you were able to return it to them. So that's what I would say. But anyway. So far, though, you know, Unico seems to be good from what people are saying. A couple of resolution issues with the 26-inch I've heard of. And, of course, Rob's experience. But, you know, I mean, it sounds like they're taking care of him at least. You know, they're not hanging him out to dry. So, you know, that's good. So anybody, good customer service to me is like the key. So if you get a bad product that arrives, if they replace it for you, it seems like, you know, they're doing their due diligence and they're going to get it to you. So let us know, Rob, once you get the 19-inch, what you think. Give us your opinion on it. I'd love to hear that. So let's see. Best place to buy fuses in bulk from Jumping General, Tim.
I usually just bought them straight from, I like Mouser is who I used a lot.
Okay.
Hap's not a bad place.
Yeah, Hap will sell them in bulk. You can get them off eBay too.
I'm sure you can get them on Amazon.
Amazon. So, but yeah, Mouser, DigiKey, I'm sure for sure they have them. And then yeah, of course, like Hap would have some. And then Hap, though, you know, they've gone to their minimum order is really high now.
Right.
I forget what their minimum order is. So like eBay, Amazon would probably be your best bets. You know, DigiKey, Mouser, if you got an order you're putting in anyway, may be worth it too. Let's see. Nate says you can get a Vulix and an Namco for a newer candy LCD if you want a CRT based candy. Get an Astro King Black City Great Machines. Yeah, I'm not a candy cabinet person, but I know a lot of you guys are, and so there's a lot of like Vulix people like. Our friend, obviously Mark bought a Vulix, and I think he loves it, Tim. He thinks it's great. So I mean, you know, you get whatever you like, but I mean, I think for what they're charging here, it doesn't seem to be a bad deal by any means. So. The 19-inch was $200, is what Rob said, which is a good price. That's about what we would spend on a 19, right, Tim?
Yeah.
So there you go. Let's see, Knights of Vault. Oh, Knights of Vault is, I guess, giving us an update on some of the pre-pinball machines, the early pinball machines that were there. He says one of the games is Bally's Grandstand Horse Racing Pinball from the 1930s.
Wow.
1938, it looks like, Tim.
It's
so like
so out of our era, I really wouldn't know much about it, but if you go, like you said, and watch our videos and contact John Costa, those guys would probably really be interested in some of that stuff.
Got to find the right buyer. My uncle, I was talking with my uncle, Tim. My uncle has sold cars forever. And even though that's not his primary business now, he used to own a dealership. Now he's doing like more like specialty cars. But he used to say that cars from the 1950s used to be a big seller for him because you had these guys who remembered like those cars were their first cars. And he's like, you know what? Those cars are starting to lose value now.
Yeah.
And now it's cars from the 1970s.
70s
that are the
80s,
ones that 70s and 80s that are the ones that people want because those are the ones that people remember. And so it's kind of the same with pinball machines. There's not a lot of people who are around anymore who want a pinball machine from 1938.
Right.
And so, you know, finding an audience for that is very limited. And so, as far as gold mine goes, I wouldn't say gold mine. You may be able to make if you could buy them in bulk for cheap, you may be able to turn them for some profit. But I wouldn't look at it as like you're going to buy them for $100 and sell them for like thousands.
Right.
You know, I mean, you'd be lucky, you know, if you get one, you buy it for $100. If it's working, you may turn it for $300 or $400.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You may be able to make some money on it.
If it's not working, it may take more than you willing to spend to get it working.
Exactly. So it really just depends. But that age, again, is kind of out of style with the people who are buying pinball machines now. Most of the people who are buying pinball machines now either want the title that they remember playing when they were kids, which right now would be like 80s and 90s pinball machines, some 70s, or they want the new title, whatever the new thing is that's coming up. And speaking of that, Tim, let's talk about the new thing that's coming up right now. Stern just announced Jaws. Now, Tim, I took a picture of what I thought was the coolest thing on the playfield. There's a boat, and, you know, like when you shoot the pinball into the boat, the back of it lifts up and Jaws comes out.
Under it. Okay.
I think that's really cool. So really cool stuff. But after being rumored for some time, Stern Pinball has officially announced its Jaws pinball machine. Now you got me doing it, Tim. Well, Stern will be trickling out details about the game over the next week. Some information has already surfaced, including the game trailer that shows the cabinet and playfield features. Pricing is rumored to be the same. Actually, pricing is confirmed to be the same, with the Pro model starting at $6,999. Now, Tim, this is an old IP for sure, and a lot of people are griping about that. They're saying Jaws is kind of old. Tim, I don't think I've ever seen Jaws all the way through. I've always just got bits and pieces of it my entire life. So I don't think I've actually watched the entire thing all the way through. I know it's fantastic because I've heard people talk about it. And I've seen bits and pieces when I catch it on like TV or whatever. I do not think I've sat down and watched the whole thing. So with that in mind, I probably will at some point. But I don't know. A lot of people are complaining that the IP is too old. What do you think?
Yeah, well, old people spend money.
It's true.
And people that like it. Fun fact, this elbow right here was in Jaws 3.
Oh, really?
I was in Florida and they were filming one day and they told me and my nephew to play on the beach area. And we were at SeaWorld. If you guys remember, it's a 3D one. And where they were filming a scene where they were doing like, what do you call it, the skiers were doing the pyramid.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And anyway, so just off the record, I think all I see is my elbow in that movie. But Steven Spielberg was there. Of course, we didn't know who he was at the time. Never heard of him.
Right.
But he let all the kids, they brought the shark up and opened his mouth and got pictures of sitting inside the mouth like that open.
Oh, cool.
Wide. So that's all we got paid for it, but it was kind of fun.
Sounds good. Well, I mean, I think the theme is cool. I think just looking at the cabinet, the artwork looks great. And the features on the cabinet look cool. It looks different. I will say that, like, the layout is different than some of the more recent Sterns. I feel like they've been reusing a lot of themes, but I feel like a lot of playfield layouts. But I feel like this layout is different. So I mean, maybe that's just me.
And I'm just like I said, you're really. I remember the movie, but that was the one I remember was Jaws 3.
Right.
So the actual movie that come out, I was too little to watch it, or probably wasn't allowed to watch it.
Right.
So I saw it later in life. But, so we're talking about people who are probably 10 years older than me, in their 60s now, maybe retired or whatever.
That's like my parents.
Yeah, so,
But my dad's not buying a pinball machine right now.
Probably not. But the people who have the money to spend and drop $7,000 on one, this is your audience.
Sure. I understand. I think it's cool. I actually think that the theme is cool. I mean, because I think it is iconic. Even for people who don't know the movie, they know the music.
Yeah, everybody's heard it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They know the music. They know sharks, just in general, are scary. So I think for the most part, it works. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how much they pay for the license. That's a different thing. But I think it does work for what it's worth. So
it's a good title.
Yeah, exactly. And so still, guys, out of my price range, because golly, I think things have gone up so much. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is a good seller for them at all. So let's see what we got. I want to come over here and see what people are saying. Rejected Maniac says, not sure if I can trust places like eBay and Amazon anymore for fuses. Saw Amazon selling vehicle fuses that don't blow for their rating 2 amp. Fuse that didn't blow until 10 was applied. Stick to Mauser. Yeah, so I mean, that's a good point too. Tim, we talked about the little breakers. The fuse breakers, remember those? I got you a set, right?
Yes.
So those things are great. So what it is it's a little amp breaker that looks just like a breaker like you would have in your breaker box, but they blow on the same amp as what a fuse would. So that you had a 1 amp one, a 2 amp one, a 5 amp one, a 10 amp one, a 20 amp one. And so you can put that where the fuse is supposed to go, and instead of popping the fuse, it just trips the breaker. Right. Which is great for troubleshooting. Golly.
Right.
So
that way you don't have to go through 10 fuses and keep blowing them, wonder where it is.
Right.
You can use it.
Right, exactly. So if you're looking for something to test a game that's blowing fuses with, don't buy multiple fuses anymore. Buy the circuit breakers for the arcade. The arcade fuse circuit breakers. Buy those. And we had them linked in a live show. I bought Tim a set, which we have somewhere. But they are very handy. That's the thing to get. And you test your fuses when you get them if you're worried about that. So, like, if you should be able to test them, put a little voltage on them, and if make sure they're blowing at the right amperage they're supposed to blow at. Because, you can get fuses. You can get bad parts anywhere, though, Tim. You can. I mean, we've gotten bad parts from Bob Roberts before. I mean, and Bob Roberts is somebody we bought parts from forever. So, I mean, I will say that. But Mauser and DigiKey are probably more reputable sellers when it comes to that. HAP, of course, places like that.
Yep.
We will say, too, if they're a HAP distributor, if they're a company that buys a lot of HAP parts and they have fuses, more than likely those fuses came from HAP. So, I mean, we have friends who are HAP resellers. Mm-hmm. And, HAP resellers, all they do is they buy in such huge quantities that they can resell it cheaper than Hap because they're getting the quantity discount, right? And so a Hap reseller may have those fuses cheaper as well. So let's see. YouTube Punk says Jimmy Johnson's Western Company by Ed Guida covers pre-pinball, coin-op, pinball-like games. Interesting. So there you go. Let's see. Yeah, excellent point. Too much junk on Amazon these days. Absolutely. So be careful what you're getting there, guys. Let's see. The estate games look to be in the category called bingo machines. So there is a good podcast on EM and bingo pinball machines. I think it's called the Fore Amusement Only podcast. Check with those guys if you got bingo and EM machines, because those guys know how to do the repairs too. In fact, I think they built bingo games from scratch. Wow. So I think it's called Fore Amusement Only. If those guys are still around, contact them. They probably have a lot of knowledge about the games that you're looking at there. Let's see. Oh, YouTube Punk says, I knew I recognized that elbow. So there you go. Yeah, Big D Retro, I wonder if Unico will do a 25 in the future. So their 25 is a 26. They have a 26 LCD that fits in place of a 25. And it is available. You can get it. You can pre-order them. They're like $300 or $400. They're on the Unico website. You can go there. They have them. So let's see. Jumping General, is Bob Roberts still in business? I believe so. He stopped taking orders there for a while, but I think he's back to taking orders.
As far as we know.
Yeah. TheRealBobRoberts.net. Yeah. You got to send him an email, though, right? Yep. There you go. So, Jaws Pinball, guys, just kind of last thoughts on that. I mean, I think it's going to be a big seller for them. There's a million different people who do like pinball videos about this stuff and everything, so you guys can kind of look for them if you want like a more in-depth analysis. We don't really do that, but I'm going to play it next time I see it. I want to give it a whirl. So, what about you, Tim?
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah.
I mean, so we'll see how it plays.
I'd love to see it.
Exactly. We'll see how it plays next time we give it we can give it a whirl. So I always try to reserve my judgment until after I've played it. But lately I haven't been playing many games, so it's kind of hard to tell. Hopefully I'll get to play some more pinball soon. Maybe Pinball Festival. We talked about going this year.
For sure.
Maybe we'll be able to make it this year. So. Okay, Tim, this was the last thing, and this actually came out today, but I found it just super interesting, and I know for a while, Tim, that you and me were kind of obsessed with the Vectrex a little bit, kind of the game console that it was. But Ars Technica actually released an article today called Vectrex Reborn, how a chance encounter gave new life to a dead console. And it's an article discussing the history of the Vectrex game console and the discovery of an unfinished game, A Crush of Lucifer, Tim.
Okay.
Steven Salter found the game while searching through a collection of a former Milton Bradley engineer, which was the company that bought out GCE, which was the company that actually created the Vectrex.
Okay.
And so Sean Kelly contacted Salter when the game was discovered and helped him to get the code finished and release the game for production. So now you can actually play A Crush of Lucifer. And Tim, the cool thing about this game is it's got a lot of concepts that we see in later games. Oh. It's a spaceship game where basically you fly through like a little area and then through a tunnel, and at the end you battle this big Lucifer head.
Okay.
And then you have to beat the Lucifer head. But it's very reminiscent of something like Star Fox.
Yeah.
Or what's the one we had? Star Blade. Remember Star Blade?
Mm-hmm.
Or not so much Sinistar, but those polygonal,
okay.
So Star Blade. Remember Star Blade?
Blade.
So very much like a Star Blade or a Star Fox style game. And you got to remember, though, this is way before those games ever existed.
Yeah.
So, which is pretty impressive. And so I watched some videos on it today, just of the gameplay, and I was like, wow, for, 1983, this looks really great. But, of course, that game never saw the light of day during the Vectrex's, heyday, because basically Vectrex came out at the wrong time, at the end of the video game crash. And so, but the Vectrex was a cool console because it was a TV, it was a CRT built in to the game system itself. You kind of had an all-in-one, which was great because back in the day, people only had one TV, and if you wanted to play Atari and your parents wanted to watch, whatever TV show they watch, what's a good TV show from the era, Tim, that you remember growing up watching? Ed Sullivan?
Ed Sullivan.
So, anything else?
I was thinking Family Ties or something.
Oh, okay.
I would grow up in that area. Yeah,
I went back too far. So, like Family Ties? Yeah, so, like, if your parents wanted to watch Family Ties and you want to play video games, of course you can play Atari because TV was already occupied, but you could play the Vectrex, so which was the cool thing about it. So if you haven't checked out the videos, though, on A Crush of Lucifer, I would highly recommend those, because like I said, the gameplay is fairly reminiscent of some of the later polygonal kind of Starfighter type games that you would see. Like I said, very much like a Star Blade or a Star Fox. Okay. So cool stuff. Oh, there was one for the there's a game like that for the Sega CD too, and I can't think of the name of it. But yeah, so a lot of those concepts kind of got adapted. I mean, obviously the game never came out, so not from that, but you could see the direction it was heading for sure.
Nice.
So cool stuff. But I thought the graphics for the time were super impressive, and fun. It looked like it was fun to play. So cool stuff. Yeah, we never got that Vectrex, did we, Tim? I know you wanted one for a long time, and we never. We saw them. We saw a couple, but they were always way out of our price range.
Yeah.
I mean, when the thing came out, it was only $200, but people are still selling for $200 now. I feel like.
Yeah.
So, Knights of Old says people are still making games for the Vectrex. They are very cool. But if you missed the release, they're money on eBay. They're high dollar on eBay. There you go. Alan says, I have 2 Vectrexes, the 3D Imager and the Light Pen. Amazing system.
Wow.
So, Rob says, are they selling that game with an overlay? Yes, they are. You can get the Crush of Lucifer game with the overlay and the instruction manual and a box.
Wow.
They sell it all the way packaged. So, let's see. So, yes, they are selling it with the overlay. So, love my Vectrex, says Nate. Yeah, it's a cool system. Golly, I liked it. I think it's the only one, Tim, only one of the classic systems you didn't have.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? I think you had pretty much everything else.
I think I did.
But yeah, we were always looking to hunt one down for cheap. But finding one for cheap was always a trick.
Never run across one on a good day.
Oh, we've ran across them.
Yeah.
But the people want
want
money.
The day when I had that money and it was a good deal.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, cool stuff, guys. So yeah, play your Vectrex today. For sure. And get a Crush of Lucifer while you're at it.
John, I almost sent this to you, and we can talk about this news that just broke.
Oh, right.
Did you hear about the kid playing Tetris?
Yes. Oh, I forgot to post that.
Yes, that was a good... and so we can talk about it. The 13-year-old kid...
Reached the end of NES Tetris.
Reached the end of NES Tetris. How hard is that?
That's pretty incredible. And like you said, I didn't even know there was an end. Neither did I. So
the game basically just quit, right?
Yeah, exactly. So exactly.
Kill screen, right?
Pretty cool. So yeah, it's cool whenever somebody does that. Again, kill screen basically. So he kill screened it. Who knew? So very cool. Congratulations to him. That is one of the coolest things.
13 years old.
I saw that story and I didn't post it. I probably should have. I know. Console stuff, I'm always debating like whether or not we're gonna do. Vectrex, I feel like is very close to like Vector arcade games, so I felt okay with that. But the NES story, I was like, oh, should I not? But I still think it's a cool accomplishment.
I thought it was
Congratulations to him. And like I played that game my entire life, I never got that far. So
not even close.
I mean, same kind of thing. And he's 13 and he beat the thing. So and I love Tetris, Tim. I introduced my daughter to it. We played Tetris 99 on the Switch. We love that game. It's just an easy, fun game to sit there and play, and you kind of get in the zone. That's what I like. It's one of the few games where if I start playing that, I just get in the zone to where it's like nothing else around me matters for a second as long as I'm focused on that game. I can do that with Tetris. Galaga, I'm like that on. So once I get in the Galaga zone, I just feel like, the whole outside world just disappears for a second.
There you go.
So those games, I don't know what there is about them. There's just, it's kind of like they just click with me. I don't know. So Nate says, enjoying the CDI or 3DO. So I've never had a CDI, but I do remember when I was a kid waking up and watching infomercials for the Philips CDI.
Yeah.
And I always wanted a Philips CDI. I always wanted a Sony mini disc player. And I never had either one of those, Tim. But I remember I was an infomercial kid. I would wake up at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and I would watch infomercials. And so I always thought the CDI, they always made the CDI look like the coolest thing in the world on those infomercials, Tim. Same thing with mini disc. Mini discs were like CDs, but you could record them and, easily and stuff. I always thought mini discs were cool. And I remember going to Best Buy and seeing the mini disc section and just thinking it was cool. So yeah, for sure. I've had a 3DO. I remember when I was a kid going to Best Buy and seeing the 3DO, like having the kiosk and playing it. I have, I think, 1 or 2 3DO consoles. So I do have those.
Nice.
I think I've had everything else besides like the Philips CDI. But Knights of Old, Vec Fever has Star Wars running on the Vectrex and it looks amazing.
Yep.
There you go. That's cool. YouTube Punk says there's an awesome video of it. You can actually skip the kill screen and go further in NES Tetris, he says. So there you go. Knights of Old says the game where he zooms out is Time Pilot. He can get in a Time Pilot zone. Yeah. So there you go. Let's see. Alan said, didn't I have a CDI, but do have a Gold Star 3DO. So I don't think I had the Gold Star. I'm pretty sure I had the what was the other 3DO, Tim? Was it Panasonic? I think I have a Panasonic. So what game puts you in the zone like that? Like Galaga and Tetris for me, where like just everything else just kind of disappears for a second. Tim, what game does that for you? Is there a certain game that you just get in the zone?
Back in the day, I loved Star Castle. I could really just kind of just get in there and play it. That was probably one of the better games I was better at.
Star Castle is fun. I've seen you play Gyrus. Yeah, and I would say that's probably like that. Me and Tim for a while there were really big into kicks, and so like when I'm playing, when I've got a good kicks game going, you can't get me like. It's that game that when somebody's talking to you, you just totally ignore them. That's the zone, right?
And
like
then,
you're just totally
and then we'd play Wizard of War together.
Right, exactly.
Team made up. And if you had the right partner, you could get a long way.
Wizard of War, if you had the right person that knew what they were doing, you can get pretty far. It's fun. Let's see. Nate says, I used to have a Midas player, only person in junior high. Everyone else owned an Apple Shuffle. I was the odd man out. There you go. Alan says the Panasonic was the other 3DO. I have a Panasonic 3DO. I think I have 2 of them. I have 2 Panasonic 3DOs. I've never had the Gold Star. Rob says Lumines on PSP is the zone game for him. Lumines is a great game. Trying to think of what other games. If I'm playing Super Mario Brothers, I can get in that zone sometimes. Like especially Super Mario 64, just because I played the mess out of that game. I love that game so much. I'm trying to think if there's other games that I can zone out on. I feel like 2-player games are hard to do that on. So like fighting games, I was never like that because I was always trying to predict what the other person was doing. So I was looking at hand motions or I was trying to focus on other things. I'm trying to think if there's any other games like that.
You know, I remember Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo.
Oh, really?
It's like I kind of quit playing games for a couple years, and then all of a sudden we got that game, and we just played it over Christmas over and over and over and over and over. And got pretty good at it.
I will say Mega Man is probably one of the ones I'm like that with. The Mega Man series, so especially Mega Man 2. Like, you really have to be focused on Mega Man 2 in some of the areas, especially like the first level of like the Dr. Wily Castle. Golly, that's tough. Like, you have to really get into the focus to get that. YouTube Punk says Arkanoid for him. Knights of Old says Stargate Defender.
Okay.
Stargate Defender I can definitely see. Let's see. Jumping General says, too bad I didn't buy arcade games back in the 90s. Would have been cheaper prices. You know, late 90s, early 2000s were probably when the market really bottomed out. So early 2000s when I met Tim, that was a good time. And we were able to get things for cheap. But, you know, it's just demand has gone up. That's really, and you know, a lot of that has to do with, like we say, like not just more people having the ability to buy them, but more demand for them, thanks to like bar arcades and things.
Right.
So, Nate says Mega Man 2 and 3 are the jam. Absolutely, Mega Man 2 or 3 are fantastic games. I have there's a video of me getting Mega Man 2 for my birthday one year.
Oh, fun.
So good stuff. Love that game. Super Mario Brothers 3, guys, is one of my favorite games of all time, and I can definitely get in the zone on that. I was trying to think if there's any more puzzle games, because I like a lot of puzzle games. Columns for the Sega Genesis. Have you guys ever played Columns?
Nope.
I can get into a Columns zone for sure. If I, you know, just like I can with Tetris, same kind of thing. Columns is a match 3 game, so think like Candy Crush, right?
Yep.
Match 3 games. Puzzle Bobble. It's like that. Love Puzzle Bobble. So,
into some
Bust a Move. It's basically Bust a Move.
Missile Command back in the day. I could get all my lives
Missile
up.
Command for sure.
I could really get
Missile Command's definitely a game where you can get into the
pretty
zone.
good. Yeah,
absolutely. And as much as I like Missile Command, the only way to play that game is on the cabinet.
Oh yeah.
That big trackball makes all the difference. If you have a tiny trackball, not the same. Not the same. So, Shinobi and Strider were zone games for him. Yes, Shinobi and Strider are fantastic. Golly. Shinobi, all the Shinobi games are good. And then the original Shinobi on the arcade was good, but like the ones on the Sega Genesis were good too. Shinobi 2 and 3. Strider, of course, man. I mean, that's a fantastic game. Fantastic game. Okay, if you guys have any more games that get you in the zone, let us know. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here, Tim, and give our normal spell here at the end of the episode, including the fact that we want your arcade-related videos. If you want some free advertising for your YouTube channel, we are looking for people to submit your videos, 10 minutes or less, about arcade-related topics. Send a link of your video to questions@arcaderepairtips.com, and our staff will review it. If we like it, we'll use it during one of our live show episodes. Make sure you put a plug in for your channel so people know where to find you. We look forward to seeing your submissions, and as Tim, we always want people to do that. If you've got some arcade-related videos and you're right at maybe the edge of being monetized on that, we want to make sure that we can help you get over that. So, you know, we'll give you a little free advertising here on our channel. And that way, hopefully, you can get over the advertising hump and get to where you can make a little money off of your videos. So if you're on that bubble where you need a little help with that and you have arcade-related videos, please let us know. We'd love to help you out. And then, Tim, of course, we have our contact information. We have our email at questions@arcaderepairtips.com. Questions@arcaderepairtips.com. Of course, if you put live show in the subject, it'll get mentioned on the show. Otherwise, we will try to either answer it or fit in the live show just as we can. So, again, best way to get in contact with us is definitely through the email at questions@arcaderepairtips.com. We have our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. Of course, those of you guys who are watching this episode already know that, but if you're listening to this on the Question and Answer podcast feed, you can go to youtube.arcaderepairtips.com and watch this episode, as well as watch the after show, because the after show is not posted on the audio podcast feed. And we do try to cover comments from the last live show on the next episode. Mention that at the top of the show, Tim, that if you would like to leave us a question to cover on our next episode, you can leave it in the comments for this episode. And we'll get to it on episode 84, right? 84?
Yep,
okay,
84.
there you go. 84, gosh. Okay, and then we have our podcast feed, and we have our iTunes page at itunes.arcaderepairtips.com. We have our Spotify page at spotify.arcaderepairtips.com. And we have our Audible page at audible.arcaderepairtips.com. And that, of course, contains the audio from the live shows, as well as any interviews that we've done. Old question and answer podcast episodes can be found there, and old podcast episodes in general can be found at all of those pages. So, and we would appreciate if you'd leave us a review if you think that our content is, worth leaving a review for. So we do appreciate that. That will help us get more exposure and hopefully allow more people to find our podcast wherever they go. So again, itunes.arcaderepairtips.com for you Apple users out there, spotify.arcaderepairtips.com if you have Spotify, and audible.arcaderepairtips.com if Audible is your podcasting app of choice. And then we have our social media pages at facebook.arcaderepairtips.com and twitter.arcaderepairtips.com. Yes, we still use twitter.arcaderepairtips.com. We know it is called X now, but we just can't bring ourselves to give up the Twitter handle. So, but we do want to thank Mark for all of his contributions again, and we always enjoy all y'all's comments on some of the stories that we post there as well. We always try to post news stories as we find them. So if you're interested in arcade and video game related news stories, check out our Twitter and Facebook feeds for those. And Tim, I think that's about it. We do have a couple more zone games, I think, here, Tim. Let me go back over to the live chat. Rejected Maniac says, In the Hunt is also a great game that gets me in the zone. Great game. If you haven't played it, I've got a good friend who, that's his favorite arcade game of all time, is In the Hunt. In the Hunt is very fun. So if you haven't had a chance to play, we would recommend that. So, but Tim, I think we're going to wrap up the regular show here. We do have the after show coming up, and Tim mentioned that he went to the movie theater to see a movie. What movie was that, Tim?
I went and saw The Iron Claw.
The Iron Claw, which features the
story of the Von Erich family.
Von Erich family, that is correct. I do want to see this, so I am anxiously awaiting your review, and we will be talking about it in the after show. Tim, let me just name a sample of some of the movies that I saw over the holiday. I saw Maestro, Leave the World Behind, Bank of Dave, The Holdovers, Genie, and The Family Plan. Those are the movies I watched, and you will get to hear my opinion on all of them if you are so inclined to hear that, and that will be in the after show. So if you're watching this for the first time, the after show starts about 5 minutes after the regular live show here. If you're listening to it on the podcast feed, you will have to go to the YouTube page for this episode to see the after show. We don't put the audio of the after show on the podcast feed. So again, 5 minutes after we end the live show here, we will get into the after show. And the only difference between the after show and the regular live show is that no topic is off limits. So we'll be talking movies, TV shows. We'll also be talking about sports. Tim, Dallas Cowboys are in a pretty good position right now. And me and Tim are Cowboys fans, obviously. We'll also be talking about the college football playoff. And I think there were some upsets on my side, Tim, that we'll talk about. And Mavericks. Tim, you went to a game, right?
I did go to a game.
He mentioned that, so we'll talk a little bit more about Tim's experience at the Maverick game. We'll be also talking about the USFL-XFL merger.
That's interesting, yeah.
So, spring football all coming together. And Tim, I'd just like to remind everybody that the Texas Rangers won the World Series this year. And so we'll be talking about that just because. And I have a trip coming up tomorrow. We can talk about that. So, if you want to hear about all those topics I just summarized, then make sure you stay tuned for the after show here. That will start in about 5 minutes. But if you're ready to get off here and you want to say goodbye, or good night, or whatever you want to do, you're more than welcome to do that because we're wrapping up the regular live show right now. So we do want to thank you for joining us this evening and for writing in your questions. We want to give a big thanks over here to the live chat. So big round of applause to you guys. Y'all did great tonight. So glad having y'all here. Hopefully being back on the first Thursday of the month made a difference, Tim.
Hopefully so.
So hopefully a lot of you guys were able to make it who maybe weren't able to make it for some of the previous shows. So, but you guys participated a lot in the show tonight. We want to thank you guys for your support. Always great having all of you here. Tim, as we always say, you know, it's not the same without you here, and that's exactly my point. Make sure that you're here because the show will be different with you because you'll chime in this live chat and we will answer. Tim, we address almost everything that's in the live chat.
We try to.
We try to hit everything. So if you chime in, we try to hit whatever it is that you said, whatever topic it is. We try to help you out. If that's a question about arcade repair, or if that's something in general, we always try to make your presence known here on the show. So thank you guys for chiming in tonight. Tim, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up the live show for tonight?
Well, if I can speak, we'll just say Happy New Year to everybody. We look forward to more live shows in the new year and answering more questions. And so we hope that your family and you are blessed and that you have a very successful year no matter what you do, and that you get to play a lot of games.
And fix a lot of games.
Yeah.
Because remember, here at Arcade Repair Tips, when you fix the game,
You play the game.
take care, everybody. We'll see you in the after show. We'll see you next month for our February live show. Take care, everybody.
Right.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Arcade Repair Tips live show. All of our past episodes are available on our website at arcaderepairtips.com or on our YouTube page. This show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please consult a professional before attempting to repair any coin-operated machines yourself. The preceding program is a Varcade Entertainment production.
And we're back, and I hit the right button this time. Golly, I was hitting all the buttons there at the end. I couldn't even hit the right one. Golly. So we're back with the after show, guys. We hope that you enjoyed the regular live show. Of course, here in the after show, any topic is acceptable. It doesn't just have to be about arcade repair. In fact, we're probably going to talk more movies and music and TV shows than anything, right?
Right.
So let's go ahead and just talk. Is there anything else you want to say about Christmas and New Year's? What did you get? Did you get anything big for Christmas? We know you went on your trip.
That was
Germany.
That was a big part of our Christmas to each other was
Sure.
our trip to Germany. But just typical. I got a couple things from the kids that really meant something. Like my daughter gave me a picture of me and her at her wedding.
Oh, nice.
My son gave me a shirt and just said some nice things. So it was kind of chill, like as far as that goes. And got some cash from grandparents and stuff like that. So it was good.
That is good.
It was just I think we're all at that stage where if we need something, we buy it all year long.
Yeah, exactly.
If we need it, if we want it, we're just, we'll save up and buy it. But we really enjoyed the kids being home, so that was the main thing.
Nice. I got a lot of World Series gear, obviously.
I figured you were going to rack up on that.
Exactly. I got some of the banners. I need to put a new banner up, like a new pennant. I have some pennants. I need to put a new one up there. But my big present from Santa Claus was an Xbox Series X.
Oh.
So I got the Xbox Series X. I have joined the next generation of video games, Tim. Tell you what, graphics have gotten better. I didn't think we could, but they're better. So the Xbox Series X is very powerful. And it plays all the old Xbox games for the most part, which is really handy. So I'm an Xbox guy. I have a PlayStation 4, but I'm mostly an Xbox guy. So, and PlayStation 5s, obviously I was getting those for people like during the pandemic and everything. I never bought one for myself. And like the Xbox Series X, fortunately, went on sale. So, I mean, because they were expensive there for a while. $500 is a lot for a console. I mean, I know you got like a lot of you guys, if you play it a lot, that's fine. I don't know if I play mine enough to spend that much on it. So, anyway. So Christmas was good. We had a good Christmas around here. I did not feel good the day after, so I just kind of rested the day after Christmas. And my kids, my parents got my kids a trampoline. So they've been jumping on the trampoline in the backyard. So.
Did you have to put it together?
Actually, since I was not feeling well after Christmas, I did not. My wife and my daughter put it together.
Man, those things are hard to put together.
It had a YouTube video and they were able to do it. So, I mean, and this one at least had a YouTube video.
Okay, good.
That's handy. So, anyway. So, hopefully you had a good Christmas, too. And I mentioned New Year's. We went over to some friends. We shot some fireworks. And we got home about 10:30, 10:45. It was almost time for the New York ball drop by the time we got home. And then, of course, the kids were wired, so it took us a while to actually get to bed. So I still feel a little hungover from all that. So, still trying to recover a little bit. But I did go back to work on Wednesday. I had Monday, Tuesday off. So I had Monday, Tuesday for Christmas off, Monday, Tuesday for New Year's off. So I know a lot of people got Friday, Monday. Just depends on, your company and all that kind of stuff. So, which one did you get? Or did you just take the whole thing off?
I was off 12 days.
Okay. Did you take it off or
I took it off.
Okay.
All of our vacation ends at the end of the year.
Oh, gotcha.
So anything you don't take, it doesn't carry over. Some sick days do. But here's the deal. My work actually encourages us to take off during the holidays because it's not a good time for us to be doing audits and going into businesses when they're really busy.
Makes sense.
So, for the first time, it's like, oh, you want off Christmas? So fine, just take off. So, and Landon was home from the military, so we got to spend a lot of time together and hang out.
Yeah, so that is, I could take that off, but the time between Christmas and New Year's is the only downtime we really have all year where nothing is being produced at my company. So we're a manufacturing company, and so that's the only time all year where there's nothing going on. So that's why I do all my backups.
Yeah,
and
it's a
other
good
stuff.
time to get some stuff
exactly.
done.
You get some stuff done, right, that you normally can't get done. And so I've taken it off before, but typically I try not to, just because I can get some stuff done that little 3-day or 4-day lull between Christmas and New Year. So let's talk about sports. So what about them Dallas Cowboys? How about them boys, huh?
Well, how about a controversial call?
Yeah, so the Lions 2-point conversion. Golly, that was... there were a lot of things going on with that.
Yeah, to be honest, you've got to be a little bit biased if you're a Cowboys fan. I don't think the Cowboys did anything wrong.
No.
I'm not sure that the referee didn't really just screw up, but I'm also sure that the Lions didn't purposely try to trick them so that they wouldn't know who.
I think the Lions,
to.
in trying to trick the Dallas Cowboys, tricked the officials.
Yes.
I mean, so apparently before the game,
my opinion.
they had, you go over these things with the teams, and apparently they had
I didn't
talked
really
about
know all that, but that's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
to
so
find
apparently
out.
they talked about a play where number 70 would report in and be the eligible receiver. But that was not the case with this one. That number 68 was supposed to be the one that was supposed to be the eligible receiver.
Right.
Okay, and so when they reported, the ref thought. And another thing was number 70 was coming in.
Yeah.
And so naturally he thought number 70, and they'd already talked about it. He's like, well, naturally number 70 is going to be the one to receive.
Right.
Number 68 has been playing his position all game and has not been an eligible receiver the entire game.
And then he went and told the Dallas Cowboys number 70 is checking in.
Right, exactly.
That's the audio that you hear.
Yes, exactly.
So he didn't say 68 was checked in.
Right.
68 didn't raise his hand and say, hey, me too.
Right.
You know. Of course,
But you couldn't have said me too.
Right.
It had to be one or the other, right?
Right.
I mean, technically.
I think you could do it too. I don't know. That just got so crazy, and people still talking about it.
I know.
But I know if I was a Lions fan, I probably would feel differently.
Sure.
But I hate games that end on penalties like that.
Oh, I know. So, but here's the thing. Even if they would have scored, I'm thinking in my head, we got 23 seconds,
23
23 seconds, we got timeouts.
And a kicker that can kick it from 70 yards.
Exactly. So, I mean, I was feeling good. I was
I
like, we
wasn't
can
too
still win
worried.
this game. Right, exactly. We can still win that game. So, I mean, for the most part, I didn't think there was much of it, but I thought it was very interesting. So, Eagles fans have been giving me guff about losing to the Arizona Cardinals, Tim, for a while.
A long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
Okay? That was early in the season. I know we lost to them. It sucked. But guess what happened, Tim?
Yeah. Payback.
They lost in their own house
Yeah.
to the Arizona Cardinals. Who would have thought?
Well, any given Sunday, that just proves that you got to bring it. Just like this week, Dallas can't say that they're going to beat Washington. You got just
Even though they're I think
4-9 or
no. They're like a 13.5 point favorite.
Yeah.
In the betting line, 14.5 point favorite.
No,
That's ridiculous.
The quarterback has thrown like 19 interceptions.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what's going to happen, but we have a good chance of winning the division. Golly, but San Francisco 49ers fans, your team is tough. They're the ones I'm worried about, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about the 49ers. So us winning the division is good.
Right.
Because that means we don't have to play the 49ers first. It's going to be the wild card team that gets the 49ers, right?
But then can anybody beat the Ravens?
That's a good point. The Ravens are good too.
Yeah. Who's it going to be?
San Francisco and Baltimore are the two best teams right now, I feel like.
I think
But
so,
they can
too.
lose. They've lost. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? They're not unbeatable. So it'll be interesting to see what happens down the way. We will be watching. So you got any predictions for the Super Bowl?
I'll be surprised if Dallas gets home field advantage. They got a good shot at going.
Okay. You're going to say Dallas
I'll
right
still
now?
be surprised.
Okay, you're still going to say
But I'm
Dallas?
going to think Dallas will do it. I have a feeling the Ravens may get upset by somebody, and
Okay.
I can't
pinpoint
really
it?
pinpoint who's going to step up. I would not count out the Cleveland Browns
Okay.
playing anybody.
Okay.
They just have a way of winning
Okay.
and put in a good team.
I think Baltimore to me is the best team. I don't know if I would say, I'd probably say Baltimore just because at this point. And I mean, I'm probably going to say San Francisco because I think San Francisco's tough. Here's the thing. You look at Detroit, you look at us last week, I think San Francisco could be both of us. The way we played last week. So, maybe San Francisco and Baltimore, Tim. How's that sound to you?
Maybe we're 2 players away from having a complete team. We obviously can't punch it in.
Right.
And can't trust the guys that we have to make a half-yard gain.
Exactly.
So, without that, it's going to be hard to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
It's possible, but you'd probably be a defensive something that turnovers would win it.
That's kind of how we've been all year, though. Defense first.
But what's more upsetting is, and I think more controversial right now, is the college football portal.
Yes.
Okay, did you see the Georgia game?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did
like
it look
Georgia
like-
beat Florida State?
Florida State,
Like,
undefeated
damn.
team.
Now, nobody but Florida State did not play
Like
anybody.
35 players.
Because they were mad about being shut out of the playoff, right?
Yeah, but-
and the portal.
Yeah.
And the portal.
Right.
Kind of screwed them, so.
Same thing happened to my Oklahoma team.
Right.
The quarterback that led you all through, that went to the Heisman, was a Heisman candidate, announced he's going in the portal. Nobody at Oklahoma was mad, but when he did that, you couldn't start him in the bowl game.
Exactly.
So you got a freshman player that hadn't played all year long but a few snaps, and all the offensive line was new, and several other players. So I'm like, Why can you wait till after the season is over to have all the portal open up? Why do you open it then? It just ruined a lot of bowl games. And I like to watch a bowl game.
Well, technically the season is over. I mean, you're just playing a bowl game at that point.
That's true, but we have diminished the bowl games where a lot of good players don't play in them because they're afraid they're going to get hurt. I don't know. I think next year opening up, because I think if Florida State had a chance at winning, if they'd been one of the 8 teams in the college football playoff, I think they would have played.
Yeah. So next year it expands to 12.
12.
Right?
Okay, I thought it was 8.
No, it's 12.
Wow.
So next year it expands to 12. We'll see what happens. But what did you think about the games? Michigan, Alabama was a thriller, huh? Overtime?
Those were 2 really good games, and I think there was a lot of controversy about did they get it right. I think the top 4 teams played.
Yeah, I think so too.
Maybe Georgia could have a thing, but
right.
At the same time, everybody that was in those games deserved it, and obviously it was close games. They were good. I was a little disappointed even that Texas couldn't pull it off when it went down to the last plays. It was very good.
Hey, Penix, he's the real deal, bud.
Yeah, I was surprised that Michigan won.
My new brother-in-law is from Washington. He's a big Seattle Seahawks fan and a big Washington fan. And we were over there, and I watched the game they played earlier in the season. And I saw the way they played. I was like, they're good. And I said, we're going to have problems with them. I knew right up off the bat. I thought we could win it, but I knew that they were going to give us challenges. Like, I knew that. And I kind of felt like they were better than us, but I thought we could pull it out. And we did. We had a chance at it. I stayed until the end, and I was thinking, we can still win this. We can still win this. Even down to the wire, we could still win this. And, I mean, just all it took was just 1 or 2 plays here or there. We could have won that game. Texas could have won that game. So, it is what it is. But Michigan, Washington, what? Not this weekend, but next weekend? Or the Monday? It's always the Monday after the weekend, right?
I think it's coming up, yeah.
Yeah, so Michigan, Washington, Tim, you got a favorite in that?
I'm thinking that Michigan will probably win it.
Okay, there you go. So we'll see. They were number 1, right?
Yes,
yeah,
but I won't be surprised if they don't.
Yeah,
they just have a way of winning.
Agreed. So Dallas Mavericks, Tim, you went to a game. They're 19-15, so they actually have had some losses. I think last time we had a live show, they were
off to a great.
Yeah,
start.
they had a great. They were like 17-8 or something.
Yeah.
So they've lost some games. They've won some games. Kyrie's been out, but you went to the game.
Yes.
How was it?
It was great. We had a good time. Had some pretty good seats and where we could see and hear and yell a lot. It was not too bad. I thought that, and overall, even the prices. You can't use cash anymore. It's like the Rangers games, right?
Cashless.
But I thought the prices, even of most of the souvenirs and stuff, weren't too bad. We had a good time.
Now, you know that Mark Cuban no longer owns the Dallas Mavericks, right?
Right.
So he sold out to the Sands Corporation, which is owned by, I forget what her name is at the moment, like the name of the lady that owns it. But it's basically a casino company.
Right.
And so now they are the controlling stakeholders in the Dallas Mavericks. Mark Cuban is a minority shareholder and also controlling partner, though.
Right.
So he actually does control the day-to-day operations. So
he was definitely down there on the floor with the players.
Absolutely. Oh, Alan says I've been a season ticket holder for Alabama for the last 23 years.
Wow.
I tell you what, man, you've got your money's worth because Alabama's been good for a long time. So, and you definitely have gotten your money's worth out of your tickets, I would imagine. So.
Yep.
But, yeah. But, man, so it's interesting, though, that Mark Cuban seems to, he sold that majority stake in the Mavericks, and then he's going to be off Shark Tank here, I think, after this season or next season. So I don't know if he's gearing up for something. People have been speculating president. I don't know if that's true.
I don't think it's that, but it could be another political run. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. So who knows? But I think it's interesting that he sold off the Mavericks. So
I think so, too.
Hockey is in full swing right now. I think we're coming up on the All-Star game pretty soon. Tim, Dallas Stars been doing well. I think we're 22-10-4. So I'll take that all day long. And
good,
on New Year's Eve, they scored 8 goals. I think it's against the Blackhawks. 8-1.
That's crazy.
Right? And you had one hat trick, which is 3 goals in a game. So, they're playing really great hockey for the most part. So, Tim, let's take a minute, or hang on real quick. Knights of Old says, I'd trade the Huskies win for Texas to stop kicking the Mariners out of the playoffs. Hey, I'm going to pull for Washington, I think, Tim. Okay. Even though, Michigan is a tough team, I'm going to pull for Washington there for sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if I don't root for Washington. I just think that Michigan is a good team.
Yes,
It'll be hard to beat.
It's going to be tough. For sure, but sorry about the Mariners.
It'll be a good game.
Hey, sorry about the Mariners. I love the Mariners, but we're not playing them. So
Yeah.
I mean, the Mariners are a fun team to me. I feel like, especially the last couple of seasons, they got in the playoffs last season, of course.
Yeah.
And I mean, I enjoy watching the Mariners. I always have, man. When I was a kid, Ken Griffey Jr., man. Ken
sure.
Griffey Jr.
Right.
Did you bring any cards to open?
I did not. I didn't even think about it. It's
Next
been
time.
a crazy week.
It's been a crazy month.
Yes.
I understand. Next time we'll open some more packs.
I might choose some more gum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the other news I have on here, of course, is the USFL XFL merger to the United Football League, the UFL. Good news, though, Tim. The Renegades are still going to be coached by Mr. Bob Stoops. So he will still be the UFL Renegades, I believe is what they'll be called now.
Yeah.
So, so our team's still in it. Of course, they won last year. And it looked like the two teams that won, the USL and the XFL, are playing in the first week.
Oh, nice.
Which is interesting. So they're couching this as like the USFL versus the XFL, right?
Okay.
So we'll see what happens. But I know that the XFL teams only get to pick from the XFL player pool, and the USFL teams can only pick from the USFL pool. So that means all the XFL players will only be on XFL teams, all the ones from last year.
Okay.
So, which is interesting. So, I think it'll be interesting to see how they all plays out. I liked the spring football last year. I like watching the XFL. It was fun to watch.
We might have to go to a game again.
Absolutely, I'd love to go to the game again. So, of course, last time we went to a game, Tim, we started the pandemic apparently.
That's
so,
right.
Gotta be careful. But it was fun. So maybe we'll get to go to a game again. Who knows? So. Okay, Tim, I think this is the point that everybody is expecting here. Let's do the movies and TV show and other things talk. So,
Okay.
I want to hear about Iron Claw.
Okay.
Let's start there.
Well, I know that's a little bit above your generation, but did you watch some kind of WWE, right?
Oh, yeah. I was a big wrestling fan. I still watch it sometimes even.
Do you remember watching the WCW when that Von Erich's?
So I
The
never watched.
Sportatorium.
That was not my thing. Like WCCW.
Yeah.
I never watched any of that.
Well, I grew up in that era where every Saturday night we would watch it, and it came on ESPN, and we would watch it, and me and my dad would sit there, and we liked that in Mid-South Wrestling, and the Von Erichs were just crazy, strong, big, and they had this move called the Claw.
I know enough about the Von Erichs and the
on there.
Iron Claw. I know enough about them. I did not watch them wrestle personally.
So if you remember that era, you'll love the movie just because it takes you way back, and they do such a good job. Now, if you're a die-hard fan of the Von Erichs, you may be disappointed because there's some stuff they cut. And let's face it, Zac Efron is, 5'4", and
yeah,
he's
exactly.
just not. Some of the players, to me, there was the worst Ric Flair I've ever seen in my life.
Now, I heard a lot of criticism about Ric Flair. Now, the radio station that I listened to, Tim, they got to see this a month ago.
Okay.
Before it was released.
Right.
And they had their kind of opinions of it, too. The Ric Flair was definitely one that was shared by everybody.
It just was really disappointed. Because if you remember, back in the day, there was just such a big deal because Ric Flair is like, I'm not going to come down to Texas and wrestle you guys. And they talked him into it, and he loses his heavyweight championship belt to Kerry Von Erich. Now, what is interesting about the movie, but it also, if you grew up during that time, it shows a lot I never knew. I was like, what? I never knew this. For instance, and it's a little bit of a spoiler alert, did you know that Kerry Von Erich lost part of his leg below the knee?
Okay. So I
heard
listened to Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, who has seen everything in wrestling and actually grew up through the Texas territories and the Houston area. And so, I know a lot of this just because he's talked about it on his show.
Right.
So a lot of this stuff, but a lot of people did that. He hid
I
that.
never knew it.
He hid that.
And came back.
Yes.
And wrestled and
Yes.
won, beat Ric Flair with one leg.
And hid that from people.
Yes.
People did not know that, like you said.
I mean, but it was so interesting. Guys, if y'all know, if you've long-time listeners of the show, we're here in Tyler, Texas. The Von Erich Ranch is only about, the original ranch is only about 18 or 20 miles from here. And I remember people knew that back in the day. And
Sure.
They would go and wrestle and practice out there and stuff. But they were just such larger-than-life people for kids like me that wanted to be big and strong, and they just were good guys. They were just all-American guys. But if you haven't, if you don't know anything about it, we took my my son and his wife, and they really didn't know much about it at all. Okay, me and Dawn grew up in that area. She loved Kerry Von Erich. Probably had a poster of him in her room. We loved it. To them, it was just a movie, and it is one of the saddest movies you'll ever see. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
It is. Their whole story is a sad story.
Tragic.
So if you've never seen that, be prepared, because I mean it's like there's no real happy ending.
I think Carrie's the last one, right? He's the last
Kevin.
one alive. Kevin is. That's right.
Kevin, Zac Efron plays him in the movie.
Yes.
And
he was at the screening that the Rio show people that I listened to went to.
right.
Yeah. So he was there.
Yeah, and I think he liked it.
He did. He loved it.
He thought it was good, and the way it portrays their parents and stuff. I mean, like that, people like my dad knew Fritz Von Erich, their dad. He was a wrestler, big guy, and if you've ever, I would encourage you to just for fun go to YouTube and watch some of the old matches, and the dad will see him he'll get in there and start wrestling, beating them up and stuff. But it really presented a different way, because everybody thinks everything is just scripted and it's so, laid out. But no, it's real. To get to that world championship, you have to be such a good athlete and performer. Mm-hmm. And to be able to wrestle and do those moves and make it look so good,
right, that
it's such an honor to be the world champion. And to see Kerry Von Erich get to that place is awesome. It was really one of those rocky moments in the movie, where you're
right.
like, yeah, and but Ric Flair was horrible. So
well, overall,
it was just so bad.
What did you think? But overall, what would you give the movie?
Overall, if I would probably give it a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Okay.
If I'd never didn't know who it was, my daughter-in-law probably would say about a 6. I just cried, but my wife probably would think it was an 8. So to give you an idea, there was teenage heartthrobs back in those times and stuff. But since then, I've joined a Facebook page where people talk about them all the time and everything, and they really were nice guys, and they did a lot. They would go to schools and handicapped kids and stuff. They really were nice, all-American guys.
Sure. Well, I think that
it's a must-see.
Okay, well, I'm trying to decide if I want to go see it when it's in the theater or if I'm going to wait till it comes home.
I don't think that there's anything in the theater that would make it any more dynamic than, I think it's just a good story to watch at home. And, of course, it is sad. It's like we said, if you know the ending, the only thing that's good is that Kevin's boys, and he has like 13 grandkids or something now. Mm-hmm. We even talked about it when I was a kid about the Von Erich curse. It's like they talk about it in the movie. They felt like they were cursed. And
right.
He didn't want his kids to wrestle now. And a couple of his boys are now wrestlers. And you can watch them.
They did a stint in AEW a couple weeks ago. Did you see that? With Kevin.
Yeah.
He was there too. So there's video of it you can go watch where they had the two of his grandsons wrestle in the ring, and he was there with them. So you can watch that. It was on AEW. It's pretty cool. So Knights of Old said, did they ever go against Terry Funk? I believe they did.
Yeah. Was the Fabulous Freebirds were in the movie?
Was Terry Funk in the movie?
I think so. I can't remember because there were several wrestlers. I just couldn't even remember their name. But I knew the guys who played the Fabulous Freebirds. That was Terry Gordy and Michael Hayes.
Yep, Michael
They
Hayes.
looked just like them.
Oh, really?
And acted like them. I was like, yeah, now we're talking, And
and Alan says Von Erichs versus Freebirds. Alan said he saw Texas Wrestling on ESPN, which they weren't. They did have a contract with ESPN for a while.
Yeah, that's where we used to see it on Saturday nights.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really fun to watch, and kind of seeing how their dad masterminded and made it to where it was a national show and stuff. Before it was just a little local thing in Dallas,
Right. Okay, well, before we move on, I've got a couple of things in the live chat I do want to say here. Alan says he was also a season ticket holder for the Birmingham. And then Knights of Old says Mariner season ticket holder since 2009. That 18-inning Astros playoff game was fun / rough live. So that kind of reminds me of the ALCS Game 5 with the Rangers and the Astros, where Altuve hit that home run. Golly, you want to talk about heartbreaking. But hey, we got the better of them. So I'm all is forgiven. But if I'm ever up in Seattle, though, Knights of Old, you and me and a Mariners-Texas game. Let's do it.
Yeah, there we go.
So let's see. Yeah, Alan said Birmingham Stallions much cheaper than Alabama tickets, I'm sure. Yeah. Golly. Alabama tickets, I can't even imagine. Let's see. Delusional says Glow. If you haven't seen Glow on Netflix, which kind of talks about that, that's fantastic. Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. Glow. That was really good wrestling, too.
It was really good.
And it's still around, I think. I think they revived it recently. So, my daughter is really getting into WWE now. So I watch SmackDown pretty much every week. But she likes AJ Styles. That's like her wrestler. So we always watch AJ. But The Rock came back on Monday. I don't know if you saw it.
I didn't see it.
Oh, The Rock gave a whole spiel. You should have been there. It's hilarious. So, or watch it on YouTube. So The Rock came back on Raw on Monday. So I just saw the highlights, of course.
But it was kind of neat in the movie. It kind of gave. I can remember hearing stories too about people that would miss their mark and something, and they get mad at each other.
Sure.
Sometimes they would just start fighting.
Yep.
All right, well, you want to hit me? Okay, I'll hit you. And if some of that was in there,
they got a term for that. They got a term for that. Working something. I can't remember the term right now. You see, I'm getting tired. But when you start like really hitting each other, they do that sometimes. So
there's a part where Kevin, I think, really hits Ric Flair. Ric Flair's just like in the locker room going, "Man, that was a good show right there." And he's like, "I want to choke you, I hate you." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Oh man, that's just good. That's good, man. You're gonna be good." Ric Flair was that. The real Ric Flair, I think people, and a lot of people don't realize how close some of these guys were. Like, Roddy Piper was like their uncle to them.
Right.
And how he helped them and has helped Kevin and all throughout these years and stuff. And if you've heard... And if you've heard anything about Hulk Hogan recently...
Right.
Did you know that Hulk Hogan has gotten saved and baptized?
I saw that.
Because of Roddy Piper spoke to him, and he thinks in a dream.
Oh, wow.
And so, interesting. Or actually a phone call. He claims that Roddy called his phone, and he said that he spoke to him.
Oh, wow.
And from beyond the grave. So, there's some interesting... I think wrestlers are just kind of neat characters anyway.
Agreed.
But as a 10-year-old kid, though, I went to Oklahoma City... And we were going to watch, that was night, Kamala was wrestling, Junkyard Dog, the Von Erichs. I was going to see all my favorite wrestlers. And we got there, there's a mall right near there. So we got there about 2 hours early. And we thought we'd get a good parking space and we'd just go to the mall and hang out. Well, here come the bus pulled up with all these wrestlers. And I was like, wait a second, you hate that guy. And this guy's like, hey man, anybody got 50 cents? I need a drink. And they're all like, hey man, I got you. And it just, as a kid, I was like, you can't stand that guy. It was like y'all were on the same bus. I thought all the bad guys would come on a bus and then all the good guys.
I mean, they would, there's a lot of times they went to great lengths to.
I mean, they really kind of had me fooled as a kid.
Sure.
But then as an adult, you can also appreciate some of the theatrics and stuff. But just the natural... In this movie, it really talks about how they worked out and how they would practice such moves and everything and how difficult it was. Mm-hmm. Very difficult. Not everybody could do it for sure.
Right. I mean, they talk about some of the lengths, like in some of the stuff that I watch and listen to about the lengths they went to preserve what they called kayfabe. Right? Like bad guys traveling with bad guys, good guys traveling with good guys and stuff like that. So I'm surprised you saw them on a list together because, like I said, they tried to always preserve that.
Yeah.
Didn't always, but I mean, that's one of the things.
Remember the $1 Million Man? They would just give him $100, but he would just go everywhere. He'd say,
he'd give him a roll.
$100, $100 to make it look like he was really this multi-billionaire.
Yeah, Vince McMahon bankrolled all that. Yeah. So, like...
it was crazy.
And Bruce Pritchard tells a story where he talks about they were on a plane. He was on a plane with Vince McMahon, and there was a guy with a cigar smoking. This is back when you could still smoke on planes. And he offered the guy. He's like, "Hey, I'll offer you $50 to stop smoking." The guy wouldn't do it. I'll offer you $100 to stop smoking. He did the same $1 Million Man thing until he got, "I'll buy your ticket and I'll give you $500."
Wow.
And he did it. So I mean, that character is almost like Vince McMahon in a way.
Yeah.
So,
it kind of is.
Right. Knights of Old, the recent Al Snow Wrestling documentary show, Wrestlers, was pretty good. I loved Wrestlers. Have you seen it? I think I recommended it on here.
Yes.
Did you watch it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Go watch it on Netflix. It's really good. So, absolutely good. Because it talks about both sides, the behind the scenes and the front facing of the wrestlers. You know, that's what's really great about it. Okay, I'm going to rapid fire like all the stuff I've been watching because I watched a lot.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you the stuff you should watch and the stuff you shouldn't.
All right.
So let's talk about Maestro, which is getting a lot of Oscar buzz. This is about Leonard Bernstein, right? One of the famous composers and one of the famous composers of our time, including conductor as well. Tim, you can skip this one unless you're a die-hard Leonard Bernstein fan.
Okay, probably not.
But here's the thing: the lady who plays his wife in the movie, she deserves an Oscar. That's all I'm going to tell you. Okay. She deserves an Oscar.
She's good, huh?
Yeah, she's good. So if you want her performance alone is probably worth the price of admission. But overall, the movie's it's boring to an extent if you're not interested in that.
Okay.
So look, as a former choir kid who sang a lot of Leonard Bernstein music, and I can almost tell you all the pieces in that thing, I liked it.
Okay.
But if you're not that,
that's probably not.
It's not up your alley. So you can skip and be okay. Leave the World Behind.
Okay, heard a lot of
Sam Esmail, who did Mr. Robot.
Okay.
And this has Julia Roberts, who he did Homecoming with, if you've seen that on Amazon Prime. This is okay.
Okay.
And I shouldn't tell you anything about it because it's better if you don't know.
Okay.
Okay, but it's basically about the end of the world.
Right.
I'll just say that. And it's interesting. Do you like movies that make you think? That are thought-provoking?
Okay, a little bit.
If that's you, watch this. If you're the kind of person that's like, I want to escape reality and I want it to be a happy kind of thing, don't watch this.
Okay.
If you want something that's going to make you think, though, watch this. It'll make you think. At the end of it, you'll have questions. Now, if you want something to escape reality that's just good-hearted, good-natured, it'll make you feel good at the end, Bank of Dave.
Okay, the Bank of Dave.
You should watch this. I talked about Jerry and Marge Go Large. Did you watch that?
I did. That was great.
Okay, so Bank of Dave is in the same vein as Jerry and Marge Go Large.
Okay.
So if you like Jerry and Marge Go Large,
probably
you will like the Bank of Dave. Do you like Def Leppard?
Of course.
You will like the Bank of Dave.
Okay.
I'm not going to... No spoilers.
That's where I need to go.
But I'm going to tell you that if you like Def Leppard, watch the Bank of Dave. And it is something you can safely watch with your spouse.
Okay, good.
So, and it's very good. Very good. And it takes place in the UK. I will mention that. Tim, are you a big drama fan? You like things that are dramatic?
Sometimes.
Maybe with a little bit
I like suspense more than anything.
Okay. Maybe with a little bit of humor, but some drama. Mostly drama. Then if you like that, you should watch The Holdovers. Okay? The Holdovers is... I will tell you a little bit about the story on this. This is a story about... this is a story about a private boys' school that's near Boston, Barton Academy. Okay. And they have these students that don't get picked up for Christmas vacation. Their parents basically leave them there. Okay. And they're called The Holdovers.
I've seen the advertisement for this.
So it's got... What's the actor's name in this? Golly, I can't think of his name. I see his face. He deserves an Oscar for this. The main actor absolutely deserves an Oscar for this. And you know him. He's been in a ton of stuff, and I can't even think of his name at the moment. But if you like drama and you want a little bit of comedy in there and you're looking for something that's like that, The Holdovers is for you.
Okay.
Do you want just a fun holiday movie in the vein of like an Elf?
Okay, yeah.
That's Genie on Peacock. Good. Okay? So it's got Melissa McCarthy. She plays a genie, and this guy's kind of got a troubled life, and it's about him making wishes.
Okay.
Okay, but it takes place during Christmas season, so it's a Christmas movie. And it actually has a lot of... Tim, for a Universal NBC movie made by Comcast, right? Mm-hmm. Genie has a lot of biblical references.
Interesting.
So, but you have to have Peacock to watch it. Okay. So, but if you're looking for something that's kind of a Christmas movie, Genie is it, and it's funny. It's funny. Okay. Are you looking for an action flick, Tim? An action flick that's funny. That's a funny action flick. The Family Plan on Apple TV is for you. Okay. It's got Mark Wahlberg in it, and he plays he plays a former secret agent who is now a dad, but his life catches up to him, Tim, and so now he has to escape from the people he was undercover with for all those years. So, The Family Plan is hilarious, and it's funny, and it's action-packed, and if you're in for the family, funny, comedy, action-packed thing, you will like it. Okay. So, there you go. So, let's talk about Bad Surgeon real quick.
I saw Bad Surgeon.
You've seen it?
Yes.
Okay, so what did you think?
I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was good, and he should be in jail.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So, Bad Surgeon is about a doctor who comes up with this new procedure to basically put in a plastic larynx into people's throats. But what he doesn't tell anybody is that he never actually tested it on animals or anything before he started on humans, and all the humans he does it on die. And the second season of Dr. Death on Peacock is the same story.
Oh, okay.
So if you're except it's dramatized.
Okay.
So if you want to watch that, you can. Bad Sergeant's very interesting. It's a very interesting story, and if you're interested in kind of true crime, this is a true crime story.
Okay.
So if you're into that, and of course, Tim, we've been watching Night Court, and it's funny. And you should watch the new Night Court. It's kind of in the same vein as Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Mixed with the Night Court theme. So it's like Night Court Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
So highly recommended. So, and then Knights of Old says the new Fargo is awesome. I have heard that. I've heard the new season of Fargo is fantastic. I have not watched any of the Fargos though, so I'm out of the loop on that. Oh, and I have one more thing I watched that you guys should definitely watch, and that is The Dreamer, which is Dave Chappelle's new special on Netflix.
It's awesome.
It is awesome. Man, it's good.
You can be offended in the first 30 seconds.
Exactly. You will be offended, but that's the whole point.
Right.
Exactly. So, The Dreamer, I love Dave Chappelle anyway, but this special is really good, and you should.
He's probably, and it's only an hour long.
Yep.
56
short.
minutes.
And I told Tim right before we came on for the after show, I'm watching the Hulu documentary that's done by ABC on Jelly Roll, which Jelly Roll is a rap soul country artist who had a life of addiction, came out of jail, and became a musician, and is now putting out music, Tim, that is basically about him saying, I'm a sinner, I'm no good, and I need help, and I'm struggling.
Okay.
It's kind of
like
country Christian rap music is kind of what it is. So,
okay.
But Jelly Roll is a very interesting character because, Tim, he still struggles with addiction. And he goes to like these places and talks with people who are struggling with addiction. Like he's open about it and everything like this. I mean, but his music, I think, touches a lot of people because it talks about basically how no down dirty he is and how he needs a lot of help to get through it. And there's not a lot of musicians who are singing like that, right?
It reminds me of the lead singer for Stain that sings country music now. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
Oh, you remember, it's been a while since I could say I wasn't addicted.
That.
That, and he now sings country music, but it's really hard. And it's like, you know.
Yeah. Jelly Roll, I mean, had the number 7 song in the country this year. I mean, out of the top 40. I mean, he's good stuff. You need to listen to some Jelly Roll. Go listen to the music. I mean, but the music is relatable. That's why people like it. I'm not a big country fan, okay? I mean, I like some country. For most of it, I'm not. But Jelly Roll's music is relatable, and that's why people like it. And he has a rap/country, sound to it. And that's become very popular. Look at Morgan Wallen as a great example of the same kind of style.
Right.
Okay, but that's become popular with people. But Jelly Roll, because of his life and the words he's singing, kind of, people say country. I would say it's Johnny Cash.
Okay.
Rap, country.
Okay.
Maybe more like that. Because
Okay.
you know how Johnny Cash kind of sang about difficult subjects.
But he kind of crossed over a lot of places too.
Right, and
like
so I think
different...
Johnny Cash would be a more apt description of Jelly Roll. So, and I mean, I think his music's good. I don't think it's the best thing I've ever heard, okay? I think his music is good. I think his story is great.
Okay.
So that's the difference. But I am watching the documentary about Jelly Roll on Hulu. So, let's see. YouTube Punk says, Dave's a hack now, tired of people punching down on others. Too bad because I really enjoy his early comedy. I mean, he always talks about how people say he's punching down on people.
Yeah.
He's just being funny. The stuff he's talking about is just absurd. Right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what he's trying to do. His whole point, I don't know how familiar you are with the comedian Lenny Bruce. Dave Chappelle is a modern day Lenny Bruce. Lenny Bruce got thrown in jail for some of the stuff he said in his time. Right. Because he was so controversial. Dave, I feel like, is just trying to be controversial. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And he's trying to point out the absurdity of the controversy. Does that make sense? That's what he's trying to do. So, I mean...
if you get it, you get it. If you don't, I can see why some people would really be... But he offends everybody.
Exactly. He's an equal offender.
He's an equal...
Right. So, I mean, he offends
You can't
everybody.
be prejudiced if you don't like anybody.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's kind of the way he is. So, and like I said, Lenny Bruce... if you look at his stuff, it was the same kind of way. He got thrown in jail for some of his comedy, Tim, because he was punching at everybody, right? Yeah. Well, if you punch at everybody, you're going to offend somebody. You know what I'm saying? And those people don't like to get offended, and so they throw him in jail. So
I started watching a show on New Year's Eve, and we watched about 4 episodes straight, and I'm probably on episode 10 now, and that's just been a few days ago. You said you've heard of it, The Man in the High Castle.
Yes.
Okay. So
Amazon Prime.
I think that is a great. It's what they call suspense sci-fi.
Yep.
And so,
what if Hitler won World War II? Right.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Basically, it's not so much, if I understand it right, and I could be wrong, it's not that, like, everything happened just like it did.
Right.
Except for Hitler doesn't kill himself, and they drop an atom bomb or something on Washington, D.C.
Sure.
So this is set in 1961 or 62, and most of the people who fought in the war have died.
Right.
They've went to concentration camps and stuff.
Sure.
So the newer people have been inbred. They're new Americans who have been taught that the greatest generation were the worst generation.
Yeah, the Nazis.
Yeah, and that this is a much better way of life.
Right.
Okay. So of course, like people that are handicapped, but it's really interesting. I'll just, without spoiling it, one of the guys one of the head commander guy's son, is coming terminally ill, and the doctor goes, "Well, you're going to bring him to me, or do you want to do it at home?" And gives him a suicide kit. And it's like, do you back up what you've been preaching and saying,
right?
Or is it your son now? Is it different? And
Sure.
It shows how people could really. But the whole gist of the show is nobody knows what really happened in the war.
Right.
They think that Germany just annihilated everybody. They don't realize that about V-Day and stuff like that. They call it VE Day.
Right.
And so what they have are these films of the war and what happened, and shows all the atrocities that Hitler don't want out. So these film smugglers are trying to get these films out to certain people so that people can know that, no, it wasn't like what you're reading in your storybooks. It wasn't, Germany got attacked and defended herself, and now... Anyway, it's real interesting.
I've heard really good things about it. I have not picked it up. So I am familiar with it, though, just because I know people who've watched it. So
And it's pretty good acting and stuff. I think you'd like it.
there you go. Let's see. Knights of Old says, start with Fargo season 1, or season 1. 1 through 3 are amazing. 4 wasn't my favorite. 5 was great again. I heard 2 wasn't great, and that 4 wasn't great. I've heard the even seasons are not great, but the odd seasons are.
What is it?
Fargo.
Oh, Fargo, yeah.
And YouTube Bug says agree to disagree, and that's fine. I mean, like I said, Dave Chappelle is controversial. But that's his whole thing. He's trying to be controversial.
Yeah.
Right. So, but he says he does recommend Godzilla -1, and I've heard that Godzilla -1 is excellent.
I haven't heard.
I have to wait till it comes out. It's a movie.
Okay.
So I have to wait till it comes out. I think it's got subtitling. Is it subtitled? YouTube Punk? I think it may be.
Okay.
So it may actually be in Japanese. I'm not for sure. So, Knights of Old, the show Beef is pretty fun so far. Beef is on Netflix. I have not watched it. Is it good?
It's very good, and I didn't finish it. It's one of those shows I kind of quit watching. I need to go back and finish it. You can see where it's going, so I don't know what happened, but I really enjoyed the first few episodes I saw of it.
Gotcha. So those are some shows you should check out. I'm going to go right back through my movie list real quick because there's a lot of good ones here. The one that you should absolutely... Okay, YouTube Punk says it is subtitled. Okay. Godzilla -1 I heard is subtitled, so it is subtitled, which is not a problem for me because I keep my subtitles on all the time anyway, because I hate missing dialogue. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ever notice how sometimes things will be really quiet when people are talking, and all of a sudden it'll get like super loud, right? And so I keep the subtitles on because I don't... The volume thing gets to me.
Me too.
Let's see. Godzilla is subtitled Best Movie I Saw This Year, Alan says.
Okay. Thank you, Alan.
YouTube Punk, done on a $15 million. It's better than the American Godzilla. Golly, you guys are really hyping this up. I'm going to go see it. I have heard good things about Godzilla.
Sounds good.
So I'm going to have to wait till it probably comes home. Is it something I have to see at the theater? To Alan and YouTube Punk, is this something I have to see at the theater? Because it sounds like some Godzilla movies I feel like are better at the theater.
Playing.
Yeah. So let me know. If it's a theater movie or if I can watch it at home. But of the movies I said, the one you should absolutely watch is Bank of Dave. So go home tonight, Tim.
The Bank of Dave.
Watch Bank of Dave. And then the rest of them you can kind of take or leave. So Maestro, I probably wouldn't waste my time on. Leave the World Behind, only if you like thought-provoking movies. The Holdovers was decent for a good drama. Genie is fun if you want to watch some holiday cheer kind of movie. And The Family Plan is just fun action and stuff. YouTube Punk says, great to see in the theater, especially in IMAX for Alan. So we may have to go to the theater to see Godzilla, Tim.
Okay.
Sounds good. We done?
All right, we're done.
Okay. Well, we hope that you guys have a great rest of your January, a great rest of your 2024, of course. And if you made any New Year's resolutions, let us know those too. Put them down in like the comment section or put them in the live chat or something. I want to know if you made a resolution. But otherwise, we're out. We hope that you have a wonderful year, wonderful month, and we will see you back here in February. Tim, did you know that February has 5 Thursdays in it?
Wow, did not know that.
Yeah, so we're actually going to have a big break between the February and the March, which is very weird because, well, February 1st is on a Thursday, and February 29th is on a Thursday.
Oh, and it's leap year. Interesting.
So that means we won't have another one until like March, 7th? March 7th or so, 6th. So, but we will have one in February, so we'll be back for that. But thanks for being here, guys. We really enjoyed it. Thanks for chiming in. We love you guys in the live chat. Always fun to have y'all here. If you're watching this after the fact, thank you guys for watching after the fact as well. We hope that you got some enjoyment out of it. And we look forward to seeing you back here in February on the 1st for our next live show, 5:30 p.m. Central Time, and we'll let you know otherwise. But Tim, let's stick to that first Thursday of the month.
We're going to do our best.
We're going to try. So anyway, y'all have a good one. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.